Once upon a time, in a prosperous kingdom, there lived a young girl named Rosa, who was as beautiful as she was kind. However, the happy life she had known came to an abrupt end. Her family lost everything to her father's conniving enemies. After that, she decided to enter Versailles Academy to try to change her fate. To bring her noble family glory and wealth once more, she strove for the title of First Lady of Versailles. However, a noble girl named Irene came into the picture. She was as jealous as she was arrogant. Irene sabotaged Rosa and found discreet ways to harm her. She even tried to steal the man Rosa loved, Marquis Frederick, but to no avail, as the Marquis's love for Rosa was true. In the end, all of Irene's crimes came to light. The crown found her guilty of all her sins, and as punishment, she was banished from the kingdom. With Irene gone at last, Rosa was given the title of the First Lady of Versailles. Rosa lived happily ever after with Frederick by her side, and they lived happily ever after. Our female protagonist, however, was disappointed with the boring ending. They always do this and end up ruining the best shows. She liked the story Rose of the Kingdom at first, but the ending felt anticlimactic. She pouted, growing angry over the fact that the audience barely got to learn anything about the main antagonist, Irene. Everyone on the bus started fussing over her, wondering what was wrong. She thought back to the scene where Irene confidently challenged Rosa, sarcastically telling her that while Rosa might have grace over beauty, she would never be able to defeat her. The female protagonist found Irene very cool. She admitted that the author did a great job building up the rivalry between the two women. However, she wondered why the author made Irene so evil without explaining her motivations. She sighed. The author should have at least given them one chapter about her background. She sympathized with Irene, who had been built up to be just as gorgeous and as smart as the heroine. She groaned aloud, lamenting the fact that Irene never triumphed, not even once. Tears welled up in her eyes as she sobbed over how the author had ruined Irene's character. As the bus arrived at her stop, she got off, still fuming. Her phone rang, and she answered the call, assuring the person on the other end she'll be there in a bit. She reminded herself to focus, murmuring, "Everything will go perfectly today." Walking briskly, she resolved to snap out of her frustration over the novel's ending. After all, today was her day. She entered a boutique and greeted everyone warmly. The girls in the boutique thanked her for showing up on time. One of them asked if something had happened. Another worker explained an issue with a dress, detailing the entire situation before concluding. They want a total redesign and wondered if Madison could do it. Madison beamed, replying confidently, "Leave it to her." Though it wasn't easy, Madison had finally managed to reopen her mother's boutique after 15 long years. The redesigned dress was finally ready to go, and the workers praised Madison, calling her a lifesaver and wondering aloud what they would have done without her. Madison smiled and points, "Since she's their first customer, she'll deliver it to her myself." The workers assured her they would keep the other customers happy until her return. As Madison crossed the road, she hesitated, trying to remember if the customer's address was to the east or west. Suddenly, someone screamed at her to watch out. A fast-moving truck barreled toward her, and before she could react, it crashed into her. People rushed to her side, pitying the young woman and urging someone to call an ambulance. With her last breath, Madison whispered mother as she did well. She reflected on how, after so long, she had finally achieved her and her mother's dream of rebuilding the boutique. She promised herself she would deliver the dress to their first customer once she woke up. She opened her eyes, her head aching. The ceiling above her looked strange. Confused, she looked at her hands, wondering if her hands were always this small. She glanced around, questioning where she was. Suddenly, a young lady approached her, exclaiming with excitement. Madison, on the other hand, found the woman incredibly beautiful and oddly familiar. Her dark, silky hair and sharp, gorgeous eyes struck a chord. Madison thought she looks exactly like the villain from the novel she was reading, recalling Rose of the Kingdom. It hit her. This was Irene. The baby beside Irene called out, "Mama." Irene beamed with joy and replied, "Mommy is here for her daughter." Madison gasped, questioning herself. "Am I dreaming? Why is that lady calling me her daughter?" She began to piece it together. As she wake up inside the novel Rose of the Kingdom, and wonders if she woke up as Irene's daughter. The baby was playing with a piece of cloth, admiring how beautiful it was. Irene noticed her and asked if she liked the fabric, promising that she would make a dress for her when she was older. It seemed her daughter shared her interests. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Irene stood up to see who it was. A young girl appeared and informed her that there was a little hole in her dress. She asked if Irene could patch it for her. Irene took the dress and told the girl to wait for a moment. The girl explained that she needed to get it fixed because she couldn't afford a new one. Meanwhile, the protagonist, trying to gather as much information as possible since waking up as Irene's daughter, observed her surroundings. It became clear that she was now living inside the novel she had read before dying. However, the Irene in front of her was not a noblewoman as depicted in the book. Instead, Irene appeared to be working as a tailor, and Madison was now trapped in the small body of Irene's daughter, Elena. Madison thought to herself, how did she got here, and why her? No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't think of a logical explanation. Frustrated, she buried her face in the piece of cloth she held. This caught Irene's attention, and she asked her if she was all right. On the other hand, the ginger-haired girl said she would come back later to collect her dress. Irene gently pulled the cloth away from Elena's face, but Elena just wanted to move freely and talk. She raised her hands, asking for a hug. When Irene picked her up, Elena began screaming internally, wishing she could have her old body back. She thought back to her past life, where she had worked so hard to rebuild her mother's boutique, only to die before enjoying it because of a reckless driver. This realization made her anxious. If she had truly died in her past life, then this new world was all she had now. She resolved to make the best of her second chance. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. Over time, Elena grew to love Irene like her own mother and embraced her life as Irene's daughter. Later, we see Elena stitching something as she nears completion. Irene enters the room and, noticing the mess, points what she's trying to do this time. Like any good mother, Irene had taught Elena many things. Elena replied that she was trying to make lace for a new dress. Irene praised her, saying she was very proud of her. Irene was far from the villainess described in the novel. Elena thought to herself as she beamed and thanked her mother. As Elena grew older, she wanted to help Irene even more. One day, she twirled in her dress and told her mother she'd be right back. Irene, however, suggested she spend some time playing with gin instead of always hurrying back to work. Elena giggled and replied that the customer might return soon, and she wanted to help her mother finish the dress before they arrived. As Elena left, Irene called after her, telling her to be careful. Elena went to a shop where Jean came out to greet her. She handed him his mother's dress, saying it had been mended, and asked him to give her regards to his mother. Jean hesitated and asked if she was leaving already. Elena explained that she needed to help her mother. Jean's mother came out, urging Elena to play with children her age like Jean, since her mother seemed worried about her. This made Jean blush, flustered by the conversation. Elena thought, amused. Elena politely replied that she worked because she wanted to. Jean's mother nodded and handed her a bag to give to Irene, along with her thanks. Elena accepted it and headed off. Instead of playing like other children, Elena preferred practicing her skills so she could learn to make fine dresses. As she walked, a thought crossed her mind. If she's pushing herself too hard, perhaps her past life still bothered her. In that life, her mother had died in shame after competitors ruined her reputation and business. Now with this second chance, Elena wanted to protect Irene from experiencing the same pain. When she returned home, Irene teased her for not staying to play with Jean. Elena defended herself, saying she just wanted to hurry back, and added that Jean's mother had given them some bread. Irene smiled and advised her not to overwork herself, reminding her that she was still a child. But for Elena, it was worth it. She just wanted to help her mother so they could have a better life, hoping to rise to the upper class someday. Irene stiffened and warned her, status, power, wealth, they all sound great, but you can't let your desire for those things blind you. Otherwise, you might ruin someone's life, or your own. Elena wondered if her mother was referring to Rosa. She asked if it is true that Shia was a noble. Irene hesitated before asking how Elena had come to know about that. Elena replied that she had heard people in the town talking about her mother. It was true that rumors about Irene were circulating, but even if they weren't, Irene's refined way of speaking, her graceful movements, and her eye for fine dresses clearly indicated that she had once been an elegant noblewoman. Elena felt she would have recognized this even if she hadn't read Rose of the Kingdom. Irene knew she couldn't keep her past hidden from Elena forever. She blamed herself for not being more cautious about the rumors. She confessed bitterly it's all because of Rosa. Rosa had been the one to receive the title of First Lady of Versailles, while Irene was away at school. Rosa had framed her for a horrible deed, accusing her of attempting to poison her. Irene swore she would never do such a thing, but her protests had fallen on deaf ears. The crown deemed her guilty, and as punishment, she was banished. Tears streamed down Irene's face as she lamented she just wanted to give her a better life, but there's nothing she could do. This was the truth behind the story of Rose of the Kingdom. Elena realized that the author had left out so much of Irene's side of the story, ending it abruptly without revealing her fate. As Irene cried, Elena stared at her mother, holding a glass in her hand. She thought to herself, so that's why the story felt incomplete. She approached Irene, gently assuring her. Elena resolved to make Rosa pay for hurting her mother and to expose her lies. Placing her hand over her heart, she looked determined, her eyes blazing with resolve. Elena decides she will become the next First Lady of Versailles to expose Rosa. In order to do that, she will need money and power. We see Irene washing clothes at the bank of a river. Two ladies behind her conspire against her and push her into the water. Elena comes forward, screaming, asking what the hell they are doing. They mock her, saying her mother didn't teach her to respect her elders. Elena demands the two of them apologize to her mother. They state that it wasn't intentional and mockingly add that Irene isn't just an old woman, but banished criminal. Elena glares at them before screaming in anger. Irene apologetically tells her that she didn't have to be so angry about it and asks her to help carry the clothes home. Elena is about to argue, but her mother cuts her off, saying it's all right. This is why Elena wants to become the First Lady of Versailles. With that title, she would be powerful enough to persuade even the king to change rules or reverse decisions like banishment. But everyone knows that the Academy only accepts nobles. She needs to find a way to get enrolled without them realizing who she is. There's one major problem. Everyone who attends the Academy has to pay tuition. That's easy for nobles, but not for people like her. She needs to figure out how to earn all that money before enrollment closes, and she only has 2 weeks to do it if she ever wants a chance to clear her mother's name. As Elena rubs her back while stitching, she reflects on how their seamstress work has been slim for the past 3 months. If only they could attract noble patrons. Suddenly, her attention is caught by a noise. She goes downstairs only to see her mother bowing before a man who points out that it's time to pay their taxes, and they need the money right now. This is the second time they've come to collect this month, and Irene is still short. Irene apologizes and informs the tax collector that they will pay as soon as possible. The man retorts that excuses won't cut it this time. If they don't pay, Irene will be arrested. Elena is shocked. The tax collector demands to take Irene into custody. Elena steps forward and pleads for a little more time, asking for just 1 more week. She promises that if they fail to pay by then, they can arrest both of them. There's a tense silence before the tax collector responds that this will be their last chance and warns them not to disappoint him. He leaves, and Elena drops to the floor. Her mother asks if she's all right. Elena responds that she's fine and tells her mother not to worry. Irene asks what she was thinking when she stood up to the tax collector. She points out that even with 3 months, they wouldn't be able to arrange such a large sum of money. Elena reassures her mother, saying, "Leave it to her, she'll find a way." She wipes away her mother's tears as Irene questions how she could possibly arrange such an amount. Elena explains her plan. She will make new dresses and sell them to wealthy nobles who will pay good money for them. She reassures Irene again, telling her not to worry and to leave everything to her. Elena is determined to save her sweet mother. However, Irene points out that they don't have enough fabric for new dresses, and 1 week isn't enough time to make fine dresses with the material they have left. Irene then steps away, seemingly struck with an idea. She brings out her old dresses and tells Elena to use them to create something new. Irene assures her that the material is good and worthy enough to be sold to nobles. This makes Elena uncomfortable, as she points out how much her mother loves those dresses. Irene responds that she loves Elena even more and believes in her skills to transform them into something even more beautiful, just like her. Touched, Elena thanks her mother. Thanks to Irene, Elena now has fabric, but not much. She needs to make multiple dresses, and she wonders how to create fine designs without using too much material. She decides to make the dresses simple, elegant, and attractive. Drawing inspiration from designs in her previous life, she gets to work. Later, we see Irene and Jean. Irene thanks him for helping them, and Jean responds modestly, saying it wasn't a big deal, and that it's nice to see Elena having so much fun. Elena is determined to create dresses that will stun even the nobles. After long hours of effort, she finally completes one. It's the last day before the tax collector returns, and all preparations are in place. Jean arrives and asks if Elena is ready to leave. She tells him he arrived at the perfect time, which makes him blush. Elena asks him how the dress looks on her, and Jean stands there in awe. Later, we see them at the market. Jean hesitantly asks if performing in such a public place is a good idea. Elena reassures him, saying there's nothing to worry about as long as he plays his music. She removes her hood and addresses the crowd, exclaiming, "Ladies and gentlemen, to take a look at this new dress so they don't miss their chance to own a unique, one-of-a-kind design today." Her confident voice catches everyone's attention. Jean begins playing his guitar as Elena twirls to display the dress. The bidding ceremony starts and people enthusiastically participate. Suddenly, a carriage stops nearby. A young lady inside notices the dresses and exclaims to her companion, Lucas, that she has never seen such designs before. She wonders if it's part of a new trend. Lucas looks at Elena, and her heart skips a beat. The young lady struggles to hide her excitement and bids 5,000 gold pieces for the dress. This stuns everyone, including Elena and Jean. With a smile, Elena concludes the ceremony, selling the dress to the young lady for 5,000 gold pieces. She thanks her and changes into the next dress to start the next bidding. By evening, the tax collector arrives, demanding the money. Elena runs to her mother and hands over 300 gold pieces to the collector. Both Irene and the collector are stunned. Elena counts it in front of him. As he leaves, he warns them to be ready for the next time taxes are due. Elena dashes to her mother, celebrating that they made it in time. With the money she earned, she was able to pay all the taxes and still has enough left for her tuition. Elena is ready to attend Versailles Academy. At the back gate of Versailles Academy, Jean helped Elena get off the carriage. At this academy, she knew she would be able to find evidence to clear her mother's name. The speaker sincerely welcomed each and every student, and the principal announced that their time at the academy would consist of 3 years of learning, joy, and friendship. He added that it was a great pleasure to see them all there. Elena fell asleep during the principal's long speech. When she woke up, she noticed the principal was still talking. The principal finally announced that the grand welcoming ball would be held in 2 weeks, thanked everyone for their attention, and dismissed them. Everyone started fussing when they noticed Prince Lucas. For many, it would be a dream come true to dance with a royal like Prince Lucas at the ball. There was also news that another member of the royal family would be attending the academy this year. No one knew who it was, but it was said to be another prince, and the idea of dancing with 2 princes made it seem like an unforgettable night. As Elena walked out of the room, someone called out to her. A girl exclaimed that she felt like she had seen her somewhere before. Lucas pointed out that Elena was the dancer from the market, the one who had sold the dresses. Elena remembered her as the high bidder, and it was no surprise she would be here. The girl exclaimed that it must be fate for them to meet again and even be in the same class. Introducing herself, she said her name was Adeline and expressed that it was a pleasure to meet her. Adeline then pointed to Prince Lucas, saying she must have already noticed him. Prince Lucas introduced himself. When they asked for her name, Elena told them only her first name, knowing it would be dangerous to reveal that she was Irene's daughter. Adeline expressed that she looked forward to becoming good friends. Elena stood there for a moment before people started gathering around Prince Lucas and Lady Adeline, shoving her aside. One of the girls asked Prince Lucas if he remembered her from Adeline's tea party, saying it was a pleasure to meet him again. Another girl questioned Adeline and Lucas's relationship, hinting that everyone was waiting for the big engagement news. The excitement made their hearts race. Lucas responded that discussing any engagement was still a long way off. Adeline smiled, thinking it's all right and that she would patiently wait for his proposal. Elena walked away as far from the scene as possible. A black-haired guy sitting nearby with one leg crossed over the other called Lucas the future king, likening him to a duckling. This made Elena laugh. Amused, the man remarked that one of the ducklings actually laughed at his joke when she should have been fawning over Lucas like the others. Elena replies back if she looked like a duckling to him. The man explained that Lucas always attracted girls. It was his curse, though it seemed to work slower on Elena. She realized he knew Lucas very well. He told her they grew up together. Sarcastically, Elena asked if he was Lucas's brother. He clarified that they were cousins. This flustered Elena, as he added that he preferred to avoid attention, as he hated the princely spotlight. Elena wondered if he was the other prince everyone had been talking about. He then asked about her family, noting he had never seen her before. Elena explained that she had only arrived yesterday and was from Rennes, which was quite far away. She added that her family belonged to the Remington line on her grandfather's side. Apologizing for the late introduction, she introduced herself as Elena. The man, introducing himself as Tristan, said he was pleased to meet her. Walking through a corridor, an attendant pointed out portraits of all the previous first ladies and lords of Versailles. The corridor displayed pictures of the royal family from generation to generation. Suddenly, one picture caught Elena's attention. It was none other than Lady Rosa Capell, the First Lady of Versailles. The attendant explained that the First Lady and Lord of Versailles were appointed roles, acting as His Majesty's primary ambassadors and right hands. Though the titles carried heady burdens, they provided a direct connection with the kingdom and all the power and influence that came with it, including vast landholdings and monetary compensation. Even after their term ended, His Majesty prioritized their needs. To become a First Lady or Lord of Versailles was to elevate one's status exponentially. The attendant continued, explaining that Versailles Academy held the official competition for these titles 3 years from now, but every year's work counted. Students needed to do their best over the 3 years. Clenching her fists, Elena thought about how much power the First Lady of Versailles wielded, with direct access to His Majesty. It might take 3 years, but if she could claim that title, people would have no choice but to listen to her and her mother. Determined, she resolved to expose Rosa and restore her mother's honor. Jean told Elena not to work in the kitchen next time, warning her that if anyone saw her, they might start suspecting her of not being a noble. Elena thought it wouldn't be that bad. They would only mock her for being a commoner. While eating lunch, Jean asked about Elena's first day and if she had made any new friends. Elena mentioned meeting some new people, 2 princes and the lady who bought one of the dresses in the market. She added that she might gather some information from them. She then asked Jean if he had heard any rumors about Rosa from the servants. Jean replied just the casual talk about how Rosa beat her wicked and cruel rival. Everyone in the kitchen loves that story. Elena had expected as much. If this were a simple matter, her mother wouldn't have been banished in the first place. Jean encouraged her not to be disappointed, reminding her it was only her first day and that she would find more information eventually. Elena thanked Jean for acting as her servant and helping her. Jean blushed and was about to say something when suddenly someone started knocking at the door. Now I feel sorry for him, Elena thought as she got up to see who was making such a commotion. Opening the door, she found Lucas standing in front of her. He quickly closed the door behind him. Elena shouted, asking what he was doing there. He put a hand over her mouth and told her to keep her voice down. They heard voices outside, someone wondering where Lucas had gone and suggesting he might be in that room. Lucas apologized for his intrusion. Elena demanded to know why he was there, reminding him that he wasn't allowed in the ladies' dormitory. Lucas explained that Adeline had asked him to escort her after dinner, but he had drawn too much attention to himself and had to hide. Meanwhile, Jean stood glaring at him. Elena, flustered, wondered what would happen next. Lucas informed her that he hadn't gotten this much attention since entering the academy and complained that the girls here were unusually persistent. Elena thought, irritated. She grew angry, exclaiming that the ladies should find something better to do with their time. Suddenly, there was another knock at the door, and someone asked if they could talk to her for a moment. Annoyed, Elena told Lucas to leave immediately, warning him that his presence would create unnecessary misunderstandings. Lucas looked around the room and concluded that the only exit apart from the door was the balcony. Jean handed Lucas a rope and corrected himself, suggesting he use it carefully to get out. Lucas tied the rope to the balcony rail and before leaving thanked Elena for bearing with him and apologized. As he put his hand forward, Elena thought he wanted to shake hands, but Lucas took her hand, kissed it, and wished her a pleasant night. This shocked not only Elena but Lucas himself. Elena called him a flirt for kissing her hand without permission. She then opened the door to find a group of girls looking for Prince Lucas. They asked if it was possible that he had come to her room. Elena informed them that he had, but only briefly, and that her servant had already escorted him outside. The girls remarked that they hadn't seen him leave, but Elena pointed out that her room was empty. Apologizing for the interruption, they left. When the girls were gone, Elena sighed with relief. Jean then pointed out that the girls had seen Lucas entering her room, warning her that they might start spreading rumors. However, Elena reasoned that such rumors would taint Lucas's name, so it was unlikely they would dare cross a prince. The next morning, Elena was enjoying her coffee, thinking about how much she had missed it. Caffeine addiction is real. The book hadn't mentioned Academy serving coffee, but she was relieved to have it. Jean came into her room, yawning. Elena wondered if he hadn't slept well the previous night. Jean explained that the other servants had been nosy. Jean went to open the curtains just as Lady Adeline entered the room, greeting her with a bright good morning. Adeline asked Elena how she had been. Elena, feeling tired, wondered what Adeline was doing there. Adeline, noticing that Elena looked ready to go to class, suggested they go together. In class, the teacher informed the students that the day's lesson would cover simple tea party etiquette, an important and frequent social occasion they would host and attend as fine ladies. The teacher expected each of them to present themselves with grace and delicacy. The class began with Lady Elena being asked to come forward and demonstrate the elegance of drinking tea. Comforting herself, Elena thought, "There's nothing to worry about, it's just drinking tea." However, she clumsily picked up her cup, prompting the teacher to close her hand fan in anger. The teacher declared that in all her days she had never seen a lady who couldn't even hold a teacup properly. This made Elena extremely anxious. She sat down, feeling overwhelmed. The teacher asked Lady Adeline to demonstrate the correct method of drinking tea. She bowed gracefully and with perfect posture picked up her teacup. The teacher, impressed by her elegance, decided to observe the habits of the other ladies as well and advised them to follow Lady Adeline's example, not Lady Elena's. Adeline tried to defuse the situation, suggesting that customs might differ in Elena's hometown. However, Elena was furious. Her mother had taught her proper etiquette. Clenching her fists, she resolved to do better next time. Later, as Elena walked down the corridor, a group of girls mocked her for not knowing something as simple as tea etiquette. They speculated about whether she had ever attended a tea party, noting that they had never heard of her before. Whispering among themselves, they suggested she might be from a lower class, pointing out that her dresses seemed of low quality. Adeline stepped forward, calling their accusations senseless and rude, reminding them that everyone at the academy had to pay a hefty sum to enroll. Elena told Adeline to ignore them and head to their next class. However, the girls continued, suggesting that Elena might have paid her tuition fees through dirty work. One of them added, that would explain why she welcomed His Highness into her room. Adeline grew anxious, knowing that an unmarried man and woman being alone in the same room was inappropriate. Even if nothing happened, she turned to Elena and asked if the rumors were true. Before Elena could respond, Lucas appeared, mocking Adeline for assuming the worst of him. Lucas said he had overheard the commotion and was appalled to find Adeline accusing Lady Elena of such absurdities. He defended Elena, explaining that he had desperately needed rest and accidentally entered her room. He assured them that Elena had asked him to leave, and he had complied immediately. Lucas then apologized to Elena for causing her trouble. Elena, irritated as she can speak for myself, not that she have time to refute ignorance and cruelty. Lucas tried to stop her, but Elena walked away. Adeline, realizing it was her fault, resolved to speak to Elena herself. She left, determined to make amends. Elena, meanwhile, was deeply upset. She had assumed people would care more about the prince's reputation and refrain from spreading baseless rumors. Instead, she found herself paying for what she called Lucas's cowardice. Walking past the fencing grounds, Elena angrily began practicing with a sword, thinking to think she used dirty methods to get into the academy. When they're the ones who need to purify their dirty minds, she reminded herself to be careful around the nobles, knowing they could spread even worse rumors if they discovered her investigating the truth about Rosa. Elena also resolved to be wary of Adeline. While Adeline had seemed friendly at first, she had been quick to turn against her. As shouldn't have trusted her, Tristan appeared, praising her. He has never seen a lady in a dress fence so well before. Elena, shocked, addressed him as Your Highness, but Tristan insisted she call him by his name. He added he wouldn't call stabbing a dummy fencing, teasing her, if she wants to spar with him. Elena hesitated. He was a prince, but a little sparring wouldn't hurt. She attacked, and Tristan defended calmly, his movements controlled and professional, much like her mother's. He didn't hesitate to attack, and during one such move, Elena tripped. Tristan caught her in time, commenting, "This is why people don't fence in dresses." Blushing, Elena apologized. At that moment, Adeline arrived, having searched everywhere for her. Elena asked coldly, why was she looking for her according to those girls? Hanging around me will tarnish her reputation. Nonsense. Adeline exclaimed, grabbing Elena's hands. She admitted she had hurt Elena's feelings and begged for forgiveness. Adeline explained that she liked Lucas. They had been friends since childhood. When she heard rumors of Lucas being in Elena's room, she lost control and entertained baseless accusations. Adeline confessed he's everything to get, but she shouldn't have doubted her. Alan never chased him or questioned him. She tells her she trusts her, and she doesn't seem like that kind of person to her. Where were these thoughts when you accused me? Adeline promised never to doubt Elena again, and asked if they could be friends. Hugging her, she tearfully begged not to be rejected, admitting she had never been rejected before. She forgave Adeline and asked her to let go. As they walked back, Adeline invited Elena to accompany her to Mrs. Margaret's office after class to request a dress for the upcoming welcoming ball. Elena agreed, intrigued by the name Margaret, which felt familiar. In Margaret's shop, Elena found everything amusing. Margaret assured Adeline to leave everything to her. It's an honor to make a dress for her, just as it was for her mother. She'll make it even prettier than Rosa's. This caught Elena's attention. Really Rosa's daughter, or did she hear that wrong? Adeline gave her father's regards to Margaret, confirming Elena's suspicions. Adeline was indeed the daughter of Rosa and Frederick. Elena had heard of Margaret before, Margaret Dreux, Rosa's tailor. According to the book, Margaret had become Versailles Academy's official tailor after helping Rosa frame Elena's mother. The poison needle had been found in Rosa's dress, and as Rosa's tailor, Margaret had benefited from her rise to power. Elena thinks Margaret must know something as she cooperated with Rosa in that scheme. Margaret mused aloud about Rosa aiming for the First Lady title, and Adeline confirms to follow her mother's footsteps. Adeline seems proud for her mother to be her inspiration. Elena stood there in shock. She thought she could be friends with Adeline, but now she realized she needed to be more careful around her. Margaret wonders who Elena is, and if she also wants to request a dress. Elena is silent for a moment before politely declining, as she will make her ball dress herself. She glances around at all the students requesting dresses for the event and decides that's why her own dress needs to be as impressive as possible. She wonders how she can get fabric for the dress. Waiting to visit town until the weekend would be cutting it tight, and sneaking out during the week seems impractical since she doesn't have enough money to buy anything nice. Spotting a piece of fabric, she asks Margaret if she still needs it. Margaret replies that it's a leftover. Elena cheerfully offers to throw it out for her, which Margaret agrees to. Elena heads back to the academy, clutching the fabric and deciding to toss it into her room. When she can turn these leftovers into a beautiful dress, she resolves. However, as she walks, she suddenly slips. Thankfully, Tristan catches her just in time. She stares at him in surprise, thinking, Tristan seems to be catching her a lot today. Tristan questions if she'd all right. She gasps, concerned about the fabric that had landed on the floor. Tristan chides her. She should have been more careful. He just mopped the floor. She wonders why a prince is mopping floors, and he explains it's his punishment for skipping class. Elena raises an eyebrow. What kind of prince skips classes here and there? Tristan smirks and retorts. What kind of lady trips all over herself and doesn't know how to walk gracefully? Elena fires back, saying she wouldn't have fallen if he had put up a warning sign for the wet floor. Tristan looks puzzled about what is it. Elena remembers. They haven't been invented here yet. She accuses him of being careless and says he could have at least warned her when he saw her approaching. She demands he give back the fabric he ruined. Tristan returns it but pulls her closer and tells her he knows a great fabric shop in town. If she need more fabric, he can take her there tomorrow to make up for ruining her fabric. Elena stares at him, surprised. The next day, we see Tristan with a carriage, helping Elena inside so she doesn't trip again. He smiles and extends his hand to her. Elena hesitates before placing her hand in his, her heart racing. Tristan, aware of his charm, smiles knowingly, mocks her she'll lose her shopping time if she keeps staring at him like that. Elena snaps back that she wasn't staring at him. Seated in the carriage, she sighs. If he acted more like a noble more often, maybe his sudden princely attitude wouldn't be so surprising. Tristan raises an eyebrow, wondering if she was impressed by her princely charm. She gets annoyed for twisting her words. Elena wishes she had brought a book to read, as she needs to prepare for Monday. Meanwhile, Tristan jokes that he would have thrown up if he tried to study inside the carriage. Elena grateful he won't be throwing up on her today, but advises her not to skip too much classes. Tristan grins, pointing out she seemed to think about him a lot, considering she'd noticed him missing so many classes. Elena glares at him for putting words in her mouth. He chuckles and apologizes, but admits he enjoys teasing her because her reactions are so amusing. At Paul's fabric shop, Tristan greets the shopkeeper. Point's business seems to be bustling as usual. As he's restocking, Paul is glad to see him and remarks that customers have been flooding his shop, preparing for the Academy's ball. Tristan casually offers to help and wonders aloud why people get so excited about the ball when it's just another event. Paul stops him from helping, but Tristan insists, saying he's just stretching his muscles. Elena is confused and asks why a prince is helping out in a fabric shop. Tristan points. What's wrong with helping others? Elena finds him very different from what she had expected. This job is unusual for a noble, she thinks. And she has never seen a prince mop a floor either. Tristan explains he never liked how nobles treat commoners. Just because they come from old families doesn't make them any different. That's why he tried to treat everyone as equals, no matter their background. Hearing this, Elena feels her heart race again, gazing at him in a new light. Tristan wonders if he has finally impressed Elena, and he did impress her a little. He points to a red fabric, suggesting it would suit her, but Elena hesitates, thinking it might be a bit too bold for her. Tristan insists that red would make her stand out perfectly, especially with her dark hair. While speaking, he inadvertently brushes her hair, then gasps and becomes awkward. Trying to cover it up, he adds, he wears red often at parties since he has dark hair too, and wonders silently why he touched her hair. Elena narrows her eyes and points. Won't people think they are a couple if they both wear the same color? Tristan starts blushing, gets annoyed, and demands, if she's not interested, just put it back, wondering how did they even end up discussing couples because of colors. Elena finally agrees that the red color will indeed suit her well. She reasons that people tend to choose colors they are familiar with or like, so there's nothing wrong with what Tristan said. Now she just needs one more fabric to complement the red. Tristan questions if she's like fabric that much. Elena smiles brightly and replies she does love making clothes. Dresses are her favorite, and one day she wants to have her own boutique. Seeing her beaming smile, Tristan smiles back. He thinks her dream is admirable. Unknown to him, Elena silently reflects on her past life, where she had worked so hard for a boutique only to lose it. She vows to rebuild what she lost and make it a success this time. Tristan admires her goal and tells her he'll cheering for her so he can even be her first customer. She then questions what he'll be going to do after graduation. Before Tristan can answer, she remembers that he has many duties to fulfill as a prince. Looking wistful, Tristan admits he wish he had a simpler life, but lights up the conversation, stating at least he can cross swords with her again sometime. He loves fencing. Elena laughs and teases, to not his other pursuits like cleaning, as he had a lot of practice with that. Her laughter causes her fabric to fall to the floor. Tristan reaches for it, muttering if she's not falling, she's definitely going to drop things. Both of them reach for the fabric at the same time, and their hands touch. They freeze, staring at each other. Elena becomes nervous over why he's staring at her. Tristan picks up the fabric and replies her hands are too small. That's why she keeps dropping things. He quickly adds he wasn't staring. He was just looking. As there's a difference. Elena coughs, knowing Tristan enjoys teasing her. She resolves to be more careful around him. When she sees Tristan at the counter, she insists on paying for the fabric herself, but Tristan tells her to relax, explaining that Paul is a friend and is giving the fabric to them for free. Elena squints suspiciously. Tristan sighs in annoyance for doubting Paul's kind offer. She wonders if Tristan secretly paid for everything to help her. Although it helps a lot that she doesn't have to pay, the idea of being in financial debt doesn't sit right with her. That night, we see Elena spreading out all the materials she needs to create a dress for the ball next week. Jean, her companion, is overjoyed to see so much new fabric. Jean states he thought she was going to take some leftover fabric from the Academy tailor yesterday. Elena explains, those were ruined when she slipped on the floor Tristan was mopping. To make up for it, he took her to a fabric shop in town. Jean is shocked, points if he's the prince she talked about before, and asks if she went with him alone. Elena replies casually and wonders he's not as bad as she initially thought. Jean looks anxious because it sounds like a date and is worried if she's falling for that prince. Elena pauses, thinking. What intrigues her most is Tristan's attitude toward commoners. Although he can be annoying and outspoken, he makes her laugh, and she supposes he can be charming in his own way. She giggles at the thought. The next morning, Elena realizes she has worked through the night. She has spent too much time designing the dress and isn't as far along as she hoped. Last night, she asked Jean to fetch her sewing tools from home. She plans to at least have the fabric ready for stitching when he returns. There's a knock at the door. Jean enters, carrying a bag with the tools she requested. He's concerned for her for pulling up all night. Elena replies they don't have much time, and she made her breakfast too. Jean insists that she should rest as she looks exhausted, but Elena tells him she'll rest once the dress is finished. As she opens the bag, she finds a ribbon and a letter from her mother. Her mother writes about worrying for Elena every day, knowing she's attending Versailles Academy with so many judgmental people. But Jean had told her that Elena was doing well, which brought her relief. She advises Elena not to let her guard down, as the year has just begun. Her mother also mentions that more customers have come to her shop after Elena promoted her dresses in town. The ribbon is a gift for Elena to wear at the ball. Her mother writes, no matter what she wear, it'll look beautiful with it, and she wishes her good luck. Elena presses the letter to her chest, feeling touched. She decides to write her mother back before heading to school. The days leading up to the ball were passing quickly. 10 days, 8 days, and by the 5th day before the ball, Elena was yawning in class, even making Adeline worried. Later, Adeline was seen knocking on Elena's door. When Elena opened it, she was shocked to see her. Adeline handed her some tea to help her relax, noticing how awfully tired she seemed. Elena thanked her. Adeline invited her to visit her room sometime to see her garden, proudly mentioning that she had grown those leaves herself. Elena admired her for plucking her own tea leaves. Although Adeline liked to chat a lot, Elena secretly hoped she wouldn't today. There was still much work to do on her dress. Adeline glanced at the dress and asked if it was for the ball, then requested to take a closer look. Elena allowed her inside. Adeline was in awe of the dress, even in its unfinished state. Its shape was beautiful, and the sewing was done perfectly. She asked Elena if she had made it all by herself. Elena explained that her servant Jan had helped her, but she would be embroidering the pattern herself since it was a challenging task. Pointing at the dress, Adeline asked if that was where the embroidery needed to be done. She offered to help, claiming she was good at it. Elena hesitated, wondering if she could truly trust her. But with only a few days left and her exhaustion causing her to lose focus in some classes, she realized she needed capable hands. Still, she decided she would be extra careful and monitor Adeline's progress in case there were any ulterior motives. In the end, she gave Adeline the design and thanked her for her help. Adeline admired the pattern, calling it very pretty. Meanwhile, Elena picked up an etiquette book, her biggest challenge yet. She recalled her teacher mocking her, if that's how she'll curtsy in front of the king. The First Lady title will be out of reach if she keeps failing her etiquette lessons. Unlike her, the other students, being nobles, had learned etiquette even before attending Versailles Academy. Elena felt the need to catch up. She reminded herself that the hallmark of a true lady of Versailles was her command of etiquette and social graces. The First Lord and Lady represented the king himself. They had to be perfect from head to toe, whether walking, dancing, or exhibiting table manners. Elena felt worn out from reading all the etiquette instructions. Someone approached her, asking if the book is giving her a hard time. It was Prince Lucas. She wondered what he was doing there. He explained that he had been reading nearby and noticed her struggling. Embarrassed, Elena assumed he was there to mock her. Lucas reassured her, since he would like to help her if having trouble. He noticed she was studying etiquette and asked if that was the issue. She confirmed it, admitting that she was constantly scolded for her poor manners. Lucas related to her, saying he had been scolded too as a child. Royals had to perfect their manners before even reaching the age of 10. He confessed that table manners had been the most difficult for him. Elena missed the days when she could lick her fingers after eating sweets and snacks. Lucas informed her that etiquette for men and women differed, especially in how they walked and sat, which might limit how much he could help her. Elena wondered what he meant by that. Lucas explained that etiquette was something to be practiced rather than simply read about in books. He offered to share his observations of the other ladies and how their behavior might differ from hers. Elena considered it a decent offer, but she worried about the potential gossip if she got too close to Prince Lucas. At that moment, Adeline arrived, telling Lucas she had been searching for him. She noticed Elena too. Elena quickly stood up, grabbed Adeline's hand, and asked if she could help her practice etiquette. She acknowledged that she had been relying on Adeline a lot lately, but she truly needed assistance. Adeline was delighted to help. Elena had never realized the student council room had such a comfortable lounge. Adeline explained they can use this space because Lucas is a member of the council. It's also a great place for him to hide from the ladies. Elena teased for still being chased by those ladies. Lucas dismissed the topic, clearly annoyed. Adeline began the etiquette practice. She pointed out that Elena needed to leave the saucer on the table unless she was standing. However, she praised her for holding her teacup correctly. She instructed Elena to pay attention to who held the highest position at the table, which in this case was Prince Lucas. Elena could only drink her tea after he had done so, and once he finished, she wouldn't be allowed to touch anything on the table again. The practice was exhausting for Elena. Adeline reminded her to keep her back straight, which Elena found nerve-wracking. Lucas offered words of comfort, assuring her that everyone felt overwhelmed at the beginning, but that it would become a habit with enough practice. He encouraged her to keep at it, confident she would master it in time. Being told how to sit, eat, An act while being scolded for minor mistakes made Elena wonder how much Lucas had endured behind his smile. Being both noble and royalty must have been extremely difficult. Elena reminded herself of her goal. To clear her mother's name, she had to excel and secure the title of First Lady of Versailles, no matter what it took. After their tea party that day, Adeline continued to help Elena with her etiquette. Her advice proved far more effective than any book or lecture Elena had encountered. Elena began to feel guilty for her earlier assumptions about Adeline. Adeline visited Elena's room every evening, and together they spent hours embroidering the intricate pattern for the dress. On the weekend before the ball, Adeline returned home to visit her parents, so she hadn't seen the finished dress yet. Elena examined the embroidery countless times, finding that the parts Adeline had worked on were flawless. It wasn't as if Adeline had hidden a poisoned needle in the fabric or anything. Elena realized she had misjudged her. Even though Adeline was her rival for the First Lady title, she had been nothing but kind and helpful. Jean called out from outside the room, asking if Elena was ready. She responded, telling him to come in. When Jean entered, he looked at her with admiration and tells her she looked stunning, clearly impressed. Elena replied with a small smile, thanking him, since without his help she wouldn't have been able to finish this. Jean hesitated, his expression apologetic, since Miss Irene couldn't make it. It must be hard for her, especially since everyone else has their parents here tonight. Elena points to indeed unfortunate, but they don't have a choice. Even after 18 years, her mother is still banished from this kingdom, and they can't risk everything over a mere party. The ballroom was buzzing with excitement as the guests gathered. The chatter grew louder when Prince Lucas entered with Adeline by his side. Guests flocked to them, showering Adeline with compliments about her beauty, and stating only she could match the prince. Lucas stood quietly in a corner, observing the crowd. The atmosphere shifted when a girl entered wearing a stunning dress. Conversations paused, and heads turned to admire her. It was Elena. Tristan's eyes widened as he took in her appearance. The other guests began murmuring about the elegance of her dress, marveling at the intricate details. Adeline, noticing her, smiled, since she's glad she finished the dress in time, stating it's even more beautiful than the design. Lucas, overhearing this, looked intrigued. What does she meant by finish? Adeline explained Elena designed and made the dress herself. Lucas looked at Elena with newfound admiration, since it looked professional quality. Adeline adds she did this after class. No wonder she seemed tired. Elena noticed Adeline didn't mention her own contribution, despite the amount of work she had put in. Finally, Elena spoke up. It wouldn't have turned out this stunning if Lady Adeline hadn't helped with the embroidery. Adeline blushed and waved it off, since it was only a small part. Elena's design and sewing skills are what made the dress shine. Lucas, impressed, points every detail as perfect and praises her. Adeline thanked him, a faint blush on her cheeks. Before Elena could say more, a group of girls approached, pulling Adeline away. Left alone, Elena watched the lively conversation from a distance. She felt out of place, just as she always had at parties. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't muster the energy to fake enthusiasm for topics she wasn't interested in. Adeline, however, seemed to thrive. Whether she was engaging in a dull conversation or teaching etiquette to someone with a tarnished reputation, her enthusiasm never wavered. It was a skill Elena knew she needed to learn. As she stood there, Tristan approached, carrying 2 glasses. Praising her how that color suits her so well, handing her a drink. She replies, thanking him, and points he's wearing red too, and it makes them look. Tristan interrupted, rolling his eyes, making it clear he's not the only one wearing red here. Elena laughed and took the drink, since she needed this to calm her nerves. Tristan finds her looking different today and wonders if it's because of ballroom lights. Tristan was waiting for her, since he found the party was very boring. She teased him, stating as why didn't he leave already, when that's what he usually does when he's bored. He sighed and replied he couldn't. His parents are here, watching him like hawks. They've probably been glaring at him the whole time because he was by himself earlier, and now they're waiting to see if he messes up. Tristan then asked if she would like to walk around with him, mentioning that he had spotted some cakes. Elena's eyes lit up at the mention of cake. Without hesitation, she grabbed his arm and tells him to go. Tristan blushed and curses the damn ballroom lights. They approached a table laden with cakes and snacks. Tristan immediately began devouring the treats, causing Elena to wonder if he was truly a prince. Regardless, it had been a long time since she'd had cakes like these, and she decided to indulge herself. While eating, she thought to herself that she would ask Jean to make cakes like these for her later. Suddenly, someone called out to her. A woman, introducing herself as the First Lady of Versailles. addressed Elena sternly, that she needs to remember to maintain proper manners at all times, since she is embarrassing herself and the academy. Elena stared at her in shock, her heart pounding as she wondered if this woman was Rosa. Rosa's tone softened as she continued she was only trying to help, and she seemed close to her daughter, Adeline. Elena bowed in response, her suspicions confirmed. This was indeed Rosa, the woman who had destroyed her mother's life. Despite her inner turmoil, Elena managed to feign gratitude for the supposed guidance. She bit her tongue, forcing herself to remain composed. Rosa, seemingly pleased, praised Elena's good manners. Elena replied, all the credit goes to Adeline, since she helped me with table manners. Rosa smiled, points as expected from her daughter. She's the future First Lady of Versailles after all. Competing with her must be difficult. Rosa's points that not everyone comes to Versailles for the title competition. It's also an opportunity to build connections and contribute to the academy. Rosa tilted her head and questions about her name. She tells it's Elena and proudly states that she is here to compete for the title of First Lady of Versailles. Rosa mocks her determination. Elena confidently replies the greater the challenge, the better prepared a lady will be to carry out the difficult tasks required in service to the king. Rosa agreed, her tone becoming more approving since competition isn't always a bad thing. As Rosa studied Elena's face, a flicker of recognition crossed her expression. Something about Elena's appearance seemed familiar. Rosa's eyes landed on the necklace Elena was wearing, and a memory surfaced, the same necklace Irene used to wear during her time at the academy. Elena bowed politely again to excuse her before stepping away. As she left, Rosa's thoughts lingered, that this child couldn't possibly be related to Irene, since she was banished years ago. Meanwhile, Elena caught a glimpse of her reflection in a nearby mirror. She couldn't believe she had finally met Rosa face to face. Though she wore a polite smile now, she promised herself that she would one day make Rosa pay for what she had done to her mother. Her ultimate goal was clear. She would become the First Lady of Versailles. The room quieted as a lady raised a toast for attending the ball. The woman announced warmly she hopes that everyone enjoy themselves, and informs that the evening's dancing will begin shortly and promote everyone to start the year with a wonderful celebration together. Meanwhile, Elena sighed since her brief encounter with Rosa had utterly ruined her mood. Elena wonders where Tristan is since he hates fancy events. She decides she would rather talk to him than stand alone in the corner. At that moment, Tristan comes from behind her. Turning around, she tells him she has been looking for him, but she is shocked when he asks her to be his first dance partner. He explains that his parents are watching him and asks her to help him out. Elena smiles at his nervousness, finding it endearing, and accepts his offer. Meanwhile, Lucas and Adeline watch them from a distance. Adeline is surprised, not expecting Tristan to ask Elena for a dance, especially since he usually avoids dancing at all costs. She begins to wonder if there is something going on between them. Lucas, however, is annoyed and dismisses it as an act to please Tristan's parents. When Adeline questions why Lucas seems so critical of Tristan, despite them being cousins, Lucas brushes it off, claiming he doesn't like irresponsible people. His gaze flickers back to Tristan and Elena, and he grips Adeline's hand tightly. Quickly realizing it, he apologizes, explaining that he is just nervous. Adeline reassures him that it is okay and thanks him for being her partner for the ball. Lucas offers her a smile in return. As they start dancing, Lucas accidentally steps on Elena's foot for the third time. Elena mocks him, saying he should be a better dancer since he is a royal. Lucas, however, insists it is not his fault and blames his shoes, joking that they are murderous. He claims that his custom-made print shoes seem to have a mind of their own. Elena laughs and tells him to relax, reminding him that his parents are watching. She encourages him to focus on her, to listen to the music, and to move in whatever way feels natural. She promises to follow his lead. Tristan watches, being impressed by how Elena adjusts so effortlessly to Lucas's wide, awkward steps. Even though she is wearing heels and a dress, she makes their dance appear graceful and easy. Tristan smiles and pulls Elena closer, making her wonder, and they both blush while looking at each other. He states that he doesn't like fancy parties but admits it was fun dancing with her. Elena is glad Tristan enjoyed it and wonders why he seems a bit more handsome now. Perhaps it's the ballroom lights. Yes, please just fall in love already. They look so good together. They finish their dance, and Tristan thanks Elena. Just then, Lucas interrupts, pardoning himself, and grabs Elena's hand, asking if she would like to dance with him. Everyone starts murmuring, making Elena anxious as people glare at them, undoubtedly ready to start a new rumor. but it's too late to refuse since Lucas has already asked her to dance in front of everyone. Elena accepts, reasoning that one formal dance should be safe. Tristan and Adeline watch them from a distance. Tristan seems annoyed by this. He sighs, glancing at Adeline, knowing it must be difficult for her to watch. To lighten the situation, he tells her to smile, pointing out how gorgeous she looks. He praises her dance with Lucas, adding that they looked good together. However, Adeline questions whether Tristan doesn't think Lucas looks better with Elena. This annoys Tristan, who firmly believes Lucas doesn't look as good with her as she did with him. Suddenly, Adeline gets upset and reveals that Lucas accidentally went into Elena's bedchamber on their first night at the academy. This shocks Tristan, and he immediately questions her further. Adeline explains that, according to Lucas, nothing happened, and she trusts him. Besides, he didn't even know it was Elena's chamber. However, seeing Lucas and Elena looking so cozy on the dance floor made her imagine the worst. She clenches her dress in frustration. Tristan, trying to lighten the mood, asks Adeline for a dance to ease her worries. Adeline happily accepts, considering it a pleasure. This catches Elena's attention as she notices Tristan dancing with Adeline. It's all because of that stupid darn Prince Lucas. Just stick with Adeline and let others live happily, man. While dancing, Lucas thanks Elena for accepting his request. As Elena steps and Lucas twirls her, he praises her dress, impressed by its design. He remarks that while many ladies learn embroidery, this is his first time seeing such outstanding design and tailoring skills. He adds that her artistic eye and talent make her quite remarkable. This annoys Elena, and she tells him to refrain from comparing her to others, pointing out that it's not a compliment to praise someone by demeaning others. She further asks Lucas to be considerate of her reputation before asking her to dance again in the future, reminding him that it hasn't been long since the ladies were upset about him being in her chamber. Lucas becomes worried and apologizes, explaining that it wasn't his intention. He wonders if the ladies are still bothering her. Elena denies it but advises him to be more mindful of others' opinions, especially when he's in a relationship with Lady Adeline. Lucas clutches her hand and clarifies that he and Adeline are just good friends. They've always played together since childhood, which often leads people to misunderstand their relationship. Lucas further explains that he and Tristan never got along, even though they're cousins. Elena wonders why, and Lucas replies that it's because they're opposites. He's serious, while Tristan is carefree. They were encouraged to see each other as rivals from a young age. They finish their dance, with Elena still mindful of Adeline's feelings for Lucas. She decides to keep her distance from His Highness. Elena comes back to her room and tells Jean he wouldn't believe it, but she saw Rosa face to face. This shocks Jean, who questions what they talked about. Elena replies that it was just some normal, surface-level pleasantries, but that meeting gave her more determination to earn the First Lady title. However, to achieve that, she would have to compete against Adeline. It would have been easier if Adeline were like her mother, but now Elena would have to be a respectful rival instead of an enemy, since Adeline is a kind-hearted girl. Elena smiles, which makes Joan question if she enjoyed the dance since she was looking forward to it. Elena sighs, saying it was exhausting for her, especially dancing with the princess, and mocks the nobles and their dramas. Jean hesitantly asks her to be his last dance partner of the evening. Elena smiles and points out that he must have been bored all alone, but accepts his request to dance. Jean smiles and thanks her. Later, we see Rosa taking a bath, wondering about Elena. Dark hair isn't something rare, but looking at Elena reminds her of her academy days and brought back memories of Irene. She couldn't help but notice the necklace Elena had, as she remembers Irene wearing it when she challenged her in Versailles. Irene even wore it on the day she was banished, which is why Rosa remembered it so clearly. A scene from the past comes to Rosa's mind, where Irene threatens her someday the truth will come out, and she will have to pay. Rosa wonders if Elena is really Irene's daughter. If Elena manages to get the First Lady title, she will reveal the truth behind what Rosa did to Irene. However, Rosa has no way to prove that Elena is Irene's daughter since Irene could have sold that necklace. Rosa knows she can't tell anyone about this either, as it might raise suspicions. She decides to investigate the matter herself, as she can't risk losing everything she fought for. While biting her nails in anger, she resolves to get rid of Elena by whatever means necessary. One of the First Lady's duties is to regularly visit towns to volunteer and give charitable contributions to those in need. These visits are meant to remind people how much the king cares for them. During a class, the teacher tells the students that today's lesson will be practical. They assign them to give donations from Versailles Academy to the Colbert orphanage and spend time with the children. While carrying the donation bag, Elena reflects on last night. She feels stressed, realizing she shouldn't have provoked Rosa with her determination to become the First Lady of Versailles. Drawing Rosa's attention could be dangerous. If Rosa investigates and discovers that Elena is Irene's daughter, she might expel her from the academy. Elena wonders if Rosa has already started investigating. Her thoughts are interrupted when her attention is drawn to Adeline playing with the children. Elena praises her silently, noting how good Adeline is, not just at singing and sewing, but also with children. Elena thinks, there's nothing she can't do, but she reminds herself that this isn't the time to worry about Rosa or be amazed by Adeline. Suddenly, a child pulls on her dress, seeking her attention. Elena crouches to his level and asks what he wants to do for fun. She offers to read him a book or play outside with him, but she notices tears welling up in his eyes, which leaves her confused. She gently encourages the child to tell her what's wrong. The boy begins crying, saying that no one likes to play with him. Startled, Elena asks why. The boy explains that he loves to dance, but everyone calls him a girl because of it. Elena gazes at him softly, understanding that's why the other kids don't play with him. She thinks to herself, he's come to the right person. Taking his hand, Elena says firmly men can like dancing too. She adds dancing is athletic too. In fact, royal men dance as well. She twirls, encouraging the boy to twirl with her. This catches the attention of the other children, who approaches the boy and begs him to teach them how to dance. In the moment, Adeline arrives from behind and asks Elena if they can join them too. Soon, all the children, along with Elena and Adeline, start dancing, creating a lively, joyful atmosphere. A teacher watches from afar and reflects. Elena has done brilliantly since the beginning. But Lady Adeline united the children with her dance as well. The scene shifts to Lucas and Tristan fencing. Tristan teases Lucas, saying he heard he went to Elena's bedchamber after escorting Adeline to her room. Lucas, annoyed, clarifies that it was just an accident and demands to know why Tristan is insinuating things. Tristan mocks him further, asking if the dance with Elena was also an accident, pointing out that he doesn't want people to think of him as a prince who breaks multiple ladies' hearts. He adds that Adeline was upset about it and advises Lucas to pick a lady to remain loyal to. Angrily, Lucas slashes at Tristan and demands he stay out of his business. Tristan dodges the attack, causing Lucas to fall to the ground. As Lucas glares at him furiously, Tristan places his sword on him with a smirk. Tristan helps Lucas stand up, stating, "The ladies have come back. He heard they went to the orphanage today." Elena and Adeline were walking together, and Lucas starts to blush after seeing Adeline. Tristan teases him, stating, Adeline cares a lot about him, and demands why don't he pay more attention to her instead of hurting her feelings. Lucas gets annoyed and asks him stop bothering him. On the other hand, Adeline and Elena were having tea when Adeline praises Elena's posture for finally being correct. This makes Elena feel lucky since she got the hint from Adeline's seat. In class, the teacher asks the students why arithmetic is more important for the First Lady and Lord of Versailles. Elena raises her hand and answers since they will engage with the kingdom's financial and political issues, such as budget calculations or business negotiations with another country. The teacher praises her for properly studying the material, and Lucas also admires her, which makes Elena uncomfortable. In their next class, the teacher tells them that the First Lady and Lord of Versailles must be well-rounded and talented. He explains that at parties, guests may ask them to play music or discuss certain musical pieces. The teacher then questions who wants to demonstrate their skills, and bribes them with the promise of extra points for whoever steps up to the challenge. Again, Elena raises her hand to participate. Luckily, Elena had learned to play the piano a bit in her previous life. Tristan admires her from afar, which makes Elena panic, but she manages to finish her performance nicely. As she returns to her seat, Tristan teasingly asks her if he made her nervous. Elena snaps back, stating shy was just shocked that he was here since he usually skipped classes. Tristan replies back telling her he came because she told him to. Besides, he likes listening to music. Adeline also raises her hand to participate, clearing the fact that she learned the basics but prefers listening to music rather than playing it herself. While Adeline performs, Elena thinks it's a splendid performance and believes it will be hard to beat her. She claps for Adeline, thinking she will need to work even harder to catch up. Later, Adeline asks her mother why she is here without informing her first. Rosa tells her she was on her way back home after reporting to the king. She admires Adeline and mentions that the teachers have been praising her great work. Adeline is happy because she wants to follow in her mother's footsteps. However, she gets nervous when her mother mentions another girl in her class who is standing out, adding she knows that she's been helping her with etiquette. Rosa moves closer to Adeline, making the atmosphere tense. She coldly reminds her there can only be one First Lady of Versailles. She warns Adeline to stop helping her rival and to focus more on her own progress. Leaning in, she whispers in Adeline's ear, her friend is very pretty, so make sure to not let her get close to Lucas, or she might steal him away. Adeline explains, that's impossible. But Rosa snaps back she thought the same. She didn't believe Irene would try to steal Frederick from her, but she did. People like Irene, or your friend, will do whatever it takes to win, telling her that's why she needs to focus. Adeline begins to panic and wonders if her mother is right about Elena trying to get close to Lucas to defeat her. The scene shifts to the library, where Adeline is unable to focus after her mother's words. She worries because she has hurt Elena before by doubting and wrongly accusing her, since she can't make the same mistake again. Besides, she knows Elena doesn't pay much attention to Lucas. Elena only focuses on her studies and often excuses herself after classes to be alone. Elena is clearly a good friend, Adeline concludes. Even though they are competing for the title, they are doing it with grace and respect. She smiles, thinking her mother must have misunderstood. Later, we see Adeline having tea with Lucas. Adeline points out, it's been 2 months since they arrived, and asks him if he misses the palace. Lucas replies back he misses his privacy, but there's so much to learn here that he hasn't thought about anything else. Becoming a student council member has also been a great experience for him. Adeline is happy, knowing the president directly recruited him in the first week. Lucas questions if she wants to become a member too, since I can recommend her. Adeline declines the opportunity, explaining it would be difficult for her to keep up with the responsibilities. But she becomes shy and joyful over Lucas inviting her to the members-only student council lounge for tea. Lucas wipes his mouth and wonders how's Elena. It's been a while since she last came to the student council room. Adeline feels nervous but explains, Elena's etiquette has become better. So she told her she's fine by herself now. Sometimes Lucas asks about Elena, but Adeline thinks it's fine since it's just him asking about a friend. Lucas states, Elena doesn't seem to get along with our classmates, and he hopes her improved etiquette will help her socialize. Adeline agrees, believing that people might find Elena impertinent. But if they take the time to know her, they'll see that she's an honest and kind girl, she thinks. She nervously tells Lucas, Elena even managed to make a handkerchief after enjoying the embroidery class. Lucas laughs and believes she's talented, and he would like to see her sewing herself. Adeline becomes gloomy, wondering if Lucas only wants to see Elena. She knew he'd seen her sew sometimes, but she feels like he's favoring Elena too much. Lucas adds he would also like to see her dance, since she seems so nervous at the ball, but he heard the children enjoyed dancing with her during the charity class. Adeline feels really sad. But Lucas continues praising Elena, saying how well she's doing in her classes, and declares she is becoming a strong competitor. Adeline cries internally, wishing he would stop. Lucas wonders aloud, what a fascinating lady Elena is. He declares, she's a good candidate to be the First Lady of Versailles. The words of Adeline's mother, to not let Elena get close to Lucas, start ringing in her mind, making her wonder if Elena is really trying to steal him behind her back. Even after knowing her feelings for him, would she do all that just to defeat her? Elena starts trembling, making Lucas worried. Adeline slams the table, asking him if he likes Elena or if he's interested in her in some way. Lucas gets shy and asks her what she means by that. Adeline explains that he's never talked about any girl like this, especially when they're alone. He usually praises her, comforts her, and makes her feel special. She gets teary-eyed, declaring that she loves him and thought he also had special feelings for her. Lucas is in shock. Adeline believes if he knows about her feelings, he will surely forget Elena. Lucas becomes worried and reflects on the things Tristan told him earlier about choosing a lady quickly, as he's unintentionally making other ladies swarm around him. Lucas remembers his mother advising him to be cautious in choosing his future partner since she would become the future queen. He knows he can't choose someone rashly based solely on his feelings. But knowing Adeline's political worth, her genuine confession doesn't sit right with him. She is his friend, and he doesn't want to play with her feelings or prolong her misunderstanding. He sighs and apologizes, admitting he never thought of Adeline that way. He praises her for being kind and pretty, but adds that he considers her only as his sister. He apologizes again, saying he's sorry if he ever made her think otherwise. He adds that he understands she might need time to sort out her feelings and believes it would be better for them to maintain some distance for the time being. Adeline leaves, crying. Lucas blames himself, wondering if his actions made her think he was interested in her. If Elena and other ladies assumed they were a couple, there's no way Adeline wouldn't have thought the same. Lucas remembers Elena's words about being mindful of others' opinions. He sighs, realizing it's true. He's never been careful about other people's feelings. Adeline runs, thinking her dream of marrying Lucas was only in her mind. He never loved her that way or considered her his partner. She calls herself a fool, crying. All of his kindness was never special to him, and she wonders if Elena is the one special to him. She slams her door, thinking about when he fell in love with Elena, wondering if it was when they danced together or when he went to Elena's bedchamber. The maid asks her if she's all right, but Adeline tells her to leave until she is called. Sitting alone, Adeline wonders about their friendship. She had told Elena how she felt about Lucas and had helped her so much with her classes and her dress. A picture flickers in her mind of Elena asking for help to get close to Lucas, thinking he wasn't interested in her. Adeline throws her handkerchief, wondering if Elena befriended her only to get close to Lucas and take him away. Meanwhile, Elena enjoys learning about this world, finding it similar to reading her favorite novels. Fun fact: historical knowledge will help the First Lady and Lord of Versailles behave properly during political meetings. It would be embarrassing not to know the customs of different countries' delegations. The teacher explains how Lady Jocelyn's negotiation in 1811 stopped the Peasants' Rebellion. Elena raises her hand with a question, and the teacher allows it. She apologizes for the interruption and points out that the negotiation happened in 1821, not 1811. The teacher praises her for catching the mistake, thanking her for studying and correcting him. Lucas looks at Elena with admiration in his eyes, which catches Adeline's attention and makes her angry. Elena thinks about her goal of becoming the First Lady of Versailles while also gathering clues about Lady Rosa's framing. She realizes that some teachers might have been around back then and could help her learn more. Elena approaches Mr. Dillon and asks if she can question him about something. She inquires about the attempted poisoning of Lady Rosa 18 years ago, pointing out that the books lack details. The teacher explains that Irene's tailor confessed that Irene ordered her to sabotage Rosa's dress, and the poison container was found, but he can't recall if it was in Irene's room or the tailor shop. Elena gets worked up, questioning how the tailor could plant the poison needle on Lady Rosa's dress when Rosa had her own tailor. The teacher admits there might have been a more intricate plan, but no one discussed these details with the public, adding Irene herself didn't confess. Elena thanks the teacher for the guidance and leaves, thinking it's obvious her mother didn't confess because she wasn't guilty. She knows investigating an old case won't be easy, but is determined to find a clue somehow. She decides to ask other teachers for more information. Later in music class, Adeline struggles to play the piano and apologizes. The teacher brushes it off, saying everyone makes mistakes. Elena is confused. It's not like Adeline to make mistakes. Later in math class, Adeline struggles again, failing to answer a question. The teacher gets angry and warns her that failing to calculate real business transactions could cause significant losses for the kingdom. He adds that even if she doesn't become the First Lady of Versailles, a fine lady should still be able to manage household finances. He urges her to improve immediately. Elena becomes very worried about Adeline, noticing her repeated mistakes, making her want to reach out to her. I'm so sad for Adeline. It's been a week since Elena started asking Teg, the old teacher, about Rosa's poisoning incident, but no one has been able to give her a satisfactory answer. Meanwhile, Eldine hasn't seemed like herself either. During lunch break, Elena sees Eldine eating alone. Not only is she making mistakes in her actions, but she also seems to be avoiding people. The investigation is keeping Elena busy, but she thinks she should take some time to check in on Eldine too. Elena walks over to her and asks if she can sit with her. Eldine jolts at her arrival but nods in agreement. Even though Eldine is Rosa's daughter, Elena considers her a friend. Eldine has always helped her whenever Elena needed support, so now it feels like her turn to return the favor. Elena questions if Eldine isn't eating, to which Eldine replies she will in a minute. Elena states that Elena looks exhausted lately, pointing out that she's doing poorly in her classes too. She asks what's the matter and if there's any way she can help. Elena clenches her dress tightly before turning to ask if Elena has any romantic feelings for Lucas. Elena is taken aback and confused about where that question came from. Putting her fork down, she makes it clear that she has no romantic feelings for Lucas, especially knowing that Elena does. She adds that she wouldn't allow herself to have romantic feelings for someone her friend likes, as it would make her a terrible friend. Elena wipes her mouth and states that Lucas has never impressed her in any way, but Elena has always impressed her more. Elena becomes visibly upset and shouts at Elena, telling her that Lucas is far better than anyone, including her. She adds that he has many privileges as the crown prince, including an exceptional education, yet he still came to the academy to prove himself. She accuses Elena of judging him unfairly. Elena is confused, as she was only trying to comfort her. She apologizes for her earlier remark, explaining that she didn't mean to imply she looks down on him. Still, Elena thinks to herself that getting upset so easily isn't like Elena at all. Just as Elena is about to say more, someone from behind starts shouting, complaining about the food. The person throws a plate and yells about how insulting it is to eat such wretched food, adding that they are not commoners. Elena glances back and sees a wait person apologizing, explaining that the rule is they can only have 2 slices of cake. The noblewoman haughtily questions whether the wait person sees how small the slices are or if he's just too lazy to fetch more from the kitchen. She threatens to have him and the rest of the staff fired if he doesn't comply. Elena is triggered and stands up, calling out the disrespectful behavior. Someone mocks sarcastically. Elena counters, asking how someone competing for such a title can be so disrespectful to the people who work hard to serve them. The noblewoman, infuriated, grabs Elena's plate of food and dumps it over her head, sneering her to learn her place, calling her low-born trash. This makes Elena furious, and she stands up, ready to slap the woman. Just as she's about to, Lucas steps in from behind and stops her, pointing out that she'll get in trouble if she hits a noble. Before anyone can say anything else, a plate of cake comes flying from the side, hitting the noblewoman. It's none other than Tristan, grinning mischievously. I heard she likes cake, so she can take his here's mine. The noblewoman fires back, but Tristan dodges it. Lucas, meanwhile, pulls Elena away, urging her to leave the mess behind. In the background, Tristan and the woman engage in a chaotic cake fight. Elena gets up, calling for Lucas. She grits her teeth when she sees him leaving with Elena. Outside the dining room, Elena yanks her hand away from Lucas, demanding that he let her go. Lucas apologizes for making her uncomfortable, explaining that he only wanted to get her out of the situation. He offers to help clean the food from her hair, but Elena refuses, saying she can handle it herself. She turns away, annoyed, thinking about how greasy and sticky her hair feels from the sauce. She wishes she had time to take a bath, but with class in 5 minutes, that's impossible. Lucas sighs and begins wiping her hair with his handkerchief despite her protests. He states she won't have time to clean it all by herself, adding her hair deserves better treatment than this. Images of Elena confessing her feelings for Lucas flash through Elena's mind. Frustrated, she turns away, shouting that he never listens to her. She reminds him that she's already asked him to give her space, but he keeps ignoring her request. She snaps if he can respect what she wants. Lucas, taken aback, replies that he does respect her wishes, but can't just stand by and watch her get hurt. She demands, "What about Elena?" Lucas frowns, confused, wonders what does Elena have to do with this, since she was the one arguing with Lady Beth, and he just wanted to save her from making things worse. Elena fires back, accusing him of not using his power to help the workers when Lady Beth was about to fire them. She adds, not even someone with the authority to change things, not even him. This makes Lucas visibly sad, but before he can respond, Elena turns and starts walking away. Lucas states that he will be more considerate and act in a way befitting his royal title. In return, he asks Elena if she will be more careful dealing with the other nobles from now on. He explains that going up against nobles is like going against their parents and families. The stronger the family that supports them, the more likely a request for her expulsion from the academy will be granted. Elena denies this, believing the academy won't be bribed like that. Lucas, however, tells her that anyone with money and power can bribe their way through, urging her to be careful and not provoke them. He explains that if she had hit Lady Beth earlier, even though it would have been justified, Lady Beth could have reported it and forced the academy to expel her for violence. This makes Elena wonder, as it's not impossible, after all. This is the place where Rosa sabotaged her mother. Students will do anything to kick out their competitors. She bites her lip, realizing she can't afford to be expelled, not when she hasn't even achieved anything to clear her mother's name. Elena sighs and agrees to be careful as Lucas suggested. She hates to admit it, but Lucas indeed saved her from a big disaster. She thanks him for helping her and apologizes for speaking harshly to him when all he was trying to do was be kind. Lucas blushes and says it's fine as long as she understands now. Suddenly, a plate crashes on the ground with someone shouting about their dress being ruined. Lucas nods at Elena and leaves, telling her to clean herself up. He adds that he will solve the matter himself and will show what he can do with his power as a prince and a student council member. Elena looks at him, stunned. When Lucas returns to the dining hall, he demands to know what everyone thinks they are doing, making the entire room freeze. He questions their behavior as nobles, reminding them that they are here to learn how to become excellent nobles and leaders of their houses. He announces that, as a prince, he will ensure that anyone who continues this absurdity will face severe punishment from the academy. He orders the names of everyone involved in the incident to be written down. Elena is impressed by how Lucas stops all the commotion with a single order. He acted like a true king, full of confidence, and she wonders if he really is trying to change. Everyone in the dining hall begins cleaning up the mess. Lucas approaches Elena and asks for the broom, telling her to go to class. She informs him that she has been given permission to be absent since she's a victim in the incident. She offers to help instead, asking if he doesn't need to clean the tables too. Lucas flexes and tells her he's already finished cleaning the tables. Elena is impressed. She teases Hick, saying it's obvious he has grown so much after cleaning those hallways. Elena apologizes, saying this time the trouble started because of her, but Tristan was the one who got caught in the middle. Tristan assures her that he doesn't regret throwing the cake at that annoying woman, blushing as he clarifies that he only did it because he wanted to, not because he was trying to defend her. They start bickering, with Tristan asking Elena to give him the broom and take a rest since she's the victim. Elena retorts, saying she's sure there's another broom and tells Tristan to rest instead. Lucas mischievously remarks that he has no choice and holds the broom from behind to clean with her. This makes Elena blush, and she quickly hands the broom to him. After a while, Tristan notices Lucas following Elena outside. He makes it clear that he doesn't care what she does, but he warns her to be careful about getting too attached to Lucas. He says she could end up hurting both Adeline and herself. Elena turns away without responding, though she knows Tristan's words hold some truth. Meanwhile, Lady Beth watches from a distance, gritting her teeth and calling Elena low-born trash. Later that night, Adeline's maid gives her a letter from her mother. Her mother expresses disappointment in her recent poor performance and demands that she fix this shameful situation. She adds that Adeline must work harder if she wants to become the First Lady of Versailles and warns her that this is the last time she expects to hear about bad grades. Adeline bites her lip as she reads the letter. She knows she needs to do better in her classes, but she can't stop thinking about Lucas. Frustrated, she throws the letter away and collapses onto her bed, sobbing. She wonders if Elena is truly her friend. Elena left with Lucas during the food fight, leaving her alone. It feels like Elena might be falling for Lucas too, despite claiming she doesn't like him. The next day, Elena is in the library but finds herself stuck on the same page for 10 minutes. She tells herself to focus since she missed the history class and needs to catch up. But her mind keeps drifting to what Tristan said. She doesn't disagree with being more careful about Lucas. In fact, she hasn't spoken to him since the incident. Elena feels it's unfair to Lucas. Everyone scrutinizes his every move, and even she has judged him so harshly, despite all his attempts to help her. She wonders how Lucas can have female friends without being judged or chased around. Suddenly, Lucas taps on the table, catching Elena's attention. He smiles and calls her name. Startled, Elena wonders why he's here, especially when she was just thinking about him. Elena hides her face with her book, which makes Lucas smile. He knows she is still uncomfortable around him, but he wants to tell her something. Regardless of his hesitation, he praises her for being brave and defending a commoner. Most people ignore such situations, even when they know it's wrong, but she seems more likely to do what's right rather than follow unfair practices. Her actions even remind him of his duty as a prince. He thanks her, adding that he had missed saying this yesterday. Elena trembles before pointing out that all she did was the right thing, briefly stating that commoners deserve as much respect as nobles. This stuns Lucas, who smiles, thinking that having her as his friend is a blessing. She offers a perspective so different that even he misses it. He then suggests they take a tour together to the town or hospital since he is interested in hearing her ideas about these places. Elena trembles again, stopping him from praising her so much because it is getting embarrassing for her. Lucas blushes and removes the book from in front of her face, revealing that Elena is blushing too. Lucas finds her very adorable and tells her he is only speaking the truth. She deserves this much praise, and he would like to know more about her. Elena angrily questions, "What about Adeline?" This makes Lucas jolt. Elena clears her throat and asks how Adeline is, mentioning that she seems very low these days. She wonders aloud if he has seen her, as she is very worried about her. Lucas pauses and leans back in his chair. Elena questions if they fought. Lucas explains that Adeline misunderstood his actions yesterday, and now he doesn't know how to talk to her because he's afraid he might hurt her again. Elena, annoyed, asks what he means by that since everything he is doing is already hurting her. This makes Lucas even more confused. Elena explains that not talking to Adeline and following her, Elena, around will only hurt Adeline more. Lucas protests, saying it wasn't his intention. Elena grows angrier, questioning whether Lucas is afraid of hurting Adeline for Adeline's sake or for his own. To her, it seems like he's just running away. This makes Lucas slam his hand on the table. He asks her to have some sympathy, stating that she cares so much about Adeline's feelings, which he cannot control. Then he asks, what about his feelings, demanding if she doesn't care about them. Adeline sighs, realizing she was too harsh again. She then speaks, explaining that she wouldn't have been so blunt if it weren't for the fact that they are both her friends. She had to speak this way because she cares about both of them. She smiles at Lucas, telling him she believes he can handle this and advises him to face Adeline and try to mend things with her. It's better than doing nothing. Lucas repeats her words, doing nothing, pointing out that her words always cut deep into his heart. She apologizes, but Lucas interrupts, agreeing that it's true. He's been doing nothing except running away. He promises her that he will talk to Adeline today, no matter what. She wishes him good luck. As Elena leaves, Tristan catches sight of her and approaches, mocking her for seemingly ignoring his advice to stay away from Lucas. Elena, composed, asks if he saw her holding hands or flirting with Lucas. She adds that it bothers her when people misunderstand their relationship. Tristan stares at her for a moment before telling her she should talk to him instead. She advises him to stop talking since they are in a library. Tristan snaps back, pointing out that she just spoke with Lucas. She explains that it was because the matter concerned Adeline and notes that Tristan is ignoring the point on purpose. At this, Tristan pulls her book away and winks at her, teasing that she's not busy anymore. Elena demands her book back. Tristan mocks her, saying her hair might fall out as she studies this hard. Elena calls him a dumbass and counters that baldness is hereditary. While they bicker, Lady Beth watches them angrily, wondering why Elena keeps attracting one man after another. Later at night, Adeline hears a knock on her door. She opens it to find Lucas standing there, huffing. She wonders if he is all right. Lucas explains that things are the same as usual. Adeline mocks him, stating it's true that all the ladies seem really interested in him, but then questions why he's here since it has been a while since he last came. She asks if he is only here to avoid the ladies. Lucas admits that hiding from them is a bonus, but the real reason he came is to meet her. He adds that he has been a bad friend lately since he knows she's been sad. He further explains that she used to tell him everything, but not anymore. Adeline finally asks why he has been spending so much time with Elena lately, wondering if he is interested in her. Lucas asks what made her think that. She explains that he left her during the commotion and also left the cafeteria with Elena. Lucas apologizes, explaining that he wasn't trying to leave her alone, but was only trying to separate Elena from Lady Beth, since he knows how poorly nobles can treat someone of low birth. Adeline extends her hand toward him, hoping to make him feel that Elena is not special to him. Lucas flinches before explaining that she knows how much he cares about her, but clarifies that his feelings are just as a friend. He adds that he understands if she needs time to process his lack of reciprocation. Suddenly, someone knocks at the door. Taking advantage of the situation, Lucas tells Adeline that he has to go, but reminds her that he will always be there for her. Adeline clenches her fist as Lucas exits through the balcony, telling her to take care. Adeline opens the door to see Lady Beth standing there. Lady Beth apologizes for intruding so late at night, but explains that it is important. She then reveals that it concerns Elena, whom she regards as a friend. Lady Beth takes Adeline's hand and tells her that Elena is using her. Lady Beth informs Adeline that she witnessed Elena seducing Lucas in the library, openly inviting him on a date around town and throwing herself at him. She claims that Elena's actions come after she had already requested the prince to punish Lady Beth. To further twist the knife, Lady Beth adds that Elena only befriended Adeline to get closer to Lucas. Adeline wonders, her disbelief evident. She grips Lady Beth's hands tightly, her voice steady as she asks Lady Beth if she will help her uncover the real truth about Lucas and Elena's relationship. Elena writes a letter to her mother, stating that she was right about Elena. She thought Elena was her friend, but someone witnessed Elena making a move on Lucas. Elena adds that Elena betrayed her and now wants Lucas's heart too. She asks her mother for advice, wondering if this is all part of a plan to take the title of First Lady. Rosa smirks, confident that her daughter does not need to worry. She knows exactly how to deal with low-born trash like Elena and her mother. Wait, did Rosa already discover that Irene is Elena's mother? That is terrifying. Later, Elena sits as her hair is brushed. She reflects on how she thought Elena was outspoken and different from the other ladies, but she realizes Elena is worse. Elena knows she has never had a close friend betray her, so she resolves to protect herself. Determined, she glares at her reflection, planning to uncover Elena's plotting with Lady Beth today before it's too late. As Elena broods, Elena approaches her, rushing over with a cheerful demeanor and asking how she has been. Elena smiles back but doubts Elena's sincerity, suspecting that Elena only wants to know if her actions are affecting her. Elena is determined not to let Elena mock her or exploit her weaknesses. Lucas appears from behind just as Elena notices that Elena seems less cheerful than usual. He greets them and questions whether they have prepared for classes today, reminding them that midterm exams are next week. Seizing the opportunity to provoke Elena hugs Lucas, asking if he is alright after climbing down from her chamber last night since she was worried he might have been caught. Lucas replies that no one saw him. Lucas, now aware of Elena's feelings for him, sighs. While he plans to speak to her privately about her boldness, he decides not to embarrass her in public. Meanwhile, Elena smiles, seemingly happy to see them getting along. Elena, however, interprets Elena's calm demeanor as a mockery of her and her feelings for Lucas. She believes Elena is merely acting indifferent. In class, Elena suggests that Elena take the front seat with Lucas, surprising Elena since it is Elena's usual spot. Elena excuses herself by claiming she feels unwell and doesn't want the teacher to notice her. She asks Elena for this favor. Elena agrees, urging her to visit the infirmary if she feels worse. Internally, Elena mocks herself. During music class, Elena watches Lucas and Elena closely, wondering why Elena hasn't tried to draw Lucas's attention yet. She concludes that Elena might not be bold enough to be seductive in class. Tristan enters, interrupting the scene and asking why Elena is sitting at the back when she usually sits in the front. The teacher cuts him off, telling him to sit down since he is disrupting the performance. Tristan, annoyed, apologizes and continues questioning Elena about her unusual behavior. Elena brushes him off, apologizing for not answering as she claims to be busy. Lucas asks Elena if she is guessing the notes they are playing in class. Elena replies that not all her guesses are accurate since her ear training isn't perfect yet. Suddenly, Tristan asks Elena if she had a fight with Lucas. Startled, Elena bangs her hand on the table, firmly stating they did not. Her outburst catches the teacher's attention, who asks if she is alright. Embarrassed, Elena excuses herself, saying she thought she saw a spider. She silently scolds herself for being so shaky and resolves to calm down. She cannot let Elena notice her anxiety if she wants to maintain control of the situation. Tristan sighs, finding the drama around him annoying. After class, the teacher reminds Elena to pay more attention, considering the upcoming exams. She apologizes and thanks him for the reminder. Once class ends, Elena starts looking for Lucas and Elena. Having spent too much time with the professor, she grows frustrated, thinking about how the professor had to call her today all days. Lady Beth appears from behind, asking if Elena is looking for Lucas and that lowborn girl. She points out that they went to the music room together. Elena feels a growing sense of dread, especially upon hearing that Elena asked Lucas for a private lesson. Sick with worry, she dashes toward the room, convinced they are doing shameless things behind her back. As she rushes down the hall, she hears laughter. Recognizing Lucas's voice, she thinks he sounds like he is having a lot of fun. Telling herself she needs to see the truth, no matter how much it hurts, she clenches her fists and approaches the door. Peeking inside, she hears Lucas telling Elena he will teach her a difficult piece. Elena, however, asks if they can try an easier song. Lucas responds, saying he thought she liked challenges. Elena seethes, interpreting Lucas's words as evidence that Elena is tricking him. She convinces herself that stealing the man she loves is just another challenge for Elena. Clutching her dress, she thinks bitterly about Elena's supposed true colors and wonders if Lucas is truly falling for her. Inside the room, Elena pauses, feeling as though someone is at the door. Lucas asks her what's wrong, and she replies that she thought she heard something. Outside, Elena begins crying, feeling betrayed. She tells herself that all her efforts for Elena meant nothing, and that even her confession to Lucas didn't matter after all these years. Overwhelmed, she runs away, tears streaming down her face. The scene shifts to Elena sobbing in her mother's arms. Rosa holds her daughter, listening as Elena recounts seeing Elena seducing Lucas and laughing at her. Between sobs, Elena says she cannot let Elena get away with this, and begs her mother for advice on how to defeat her and win Lucas back. Rosa hugs her tightly, her expression darkening as she reassures her daughter. She softly tells her not to worry since she's known Elena's secret. The atmosphere turns heavy with mystery. Lucas plays the piano and asks Elena what she thinks of his performance. For a piece he composed himself, Elena remarks that it was amazing and complex, but she adds that she didn't feel any emotion in it. Lucas considers her words and reflects that he might have focused too much on technique. Curious, Elena asks why he didn't seek feedback from Elena instead. Lucas explains that Elena never criticizes him and always praises his work. This makes sense to Elena. Determined to improve, Lucas decides to modify the tempo to better capture the emotion and requests Elena to listen again. During the second performance, Lucas's piano piece amazes Elena. Wondering if he is showing off, she hesitates, but Lucas tells her the tempo has slowed and she should try playing it herself. They talk about challenges and musical techniques, but the scene is interrupted when Elena, who overhears their conversation, misinterprets the situation and leaves abruptly. Elena decides to wrap things up, saying she has given Lucas enough feedback for him to consider and improve. She reminds him that they have midterm tests in 2 weeks. That night, Lady Beth approaches Elena and calls Elena an insolent, low-class peasant girl. Beth smugly remarks that she is glad she came running here after seeing Lady Elena crying. She declares they can't let Elena get away with this and that she must be punished. Elena suggests they avoid violence, but her mother, Rosa, interrupts and explains they won't use physical harm. Instead, she proposes giving Elena a light lesson to show her she cannot play with Elena's feelings. Rosa manipulates Lady Beth into her scheme. Rosa suggests to pull some prank on her so she looks bad in class and in front of the teachers and her friends. Beth, more than happy to oblige, accepts the proposal. Rosa smiles slyly, thanking Beth and asking for time to think of specific ideas while she talks to Elena alone. After Beth leaves, Elena hesitantly asks her mother if it's wise to share their suspicions about Elena's identity with Beth. Panicking, Elena worries that Elena might seek revenge if she finds out. Rosa reassures her, saying they must keep this secret until they gather enough evidence. She warns Elena not to tell anyone, especially Lucas, as he is still on Elena's side. Determined, Elena vows to gather the evidence needed to expose Elena. 2 weeks later, during dinner, Jean slams the table in shock upon hearing that Elena has spent time with the princes again. She calmly explains to him that Lucas took an unusual interest in history, so she had to help him. Jean grows gloomy and accuses her of falling for a trick by the nobles to get close to her. He reminds her that she doesn't trust nobles. Elena acknowledges that some nobles are indeed nasty, but she adds that others do their best to grow, learn, and treat people equally, regardless of status. It surprises her too, but she admits she is still uncomfortable around them. She justifies her interactions by saying one of the nobles might help her find information about her mother's case. This terrifies Jean. A knock on the door interrupts them. Elena opens it to find Elena, who tells her the start time for tomorrow's etiquette class has been delayed to 9:30 a.m. She adds that she won't be able to attend as she has some business to attend to. Elena thanks her for passing on the message. As Elena leaves, she makes a horrifying smile, thinking to herself to trust her, and she will betray her, just as she betrayed her. Before Elena can leave completely, Elena calls out to her. Smiling warmly, she mentions that Lucas might need piano advice and suggests that Elena collaborate with him to create a song since she has such a good voice. adding he'll appreciate the offer. Adeline, gripping her dress tightly, forces a smile and thinks angrily, how dare she mention the piano session? Wondering for how long will she keep up this fake smile. The next day, Elena wonders why she is late when Adeline told her the class was at 9:30 a.m. The teacher questions why she arrived late. When Elena accuses Adeline of lying about the time, Adeline plays innocent and pretends to be hurt. States why would she ever give her friend the wrong time? The teacher grows angry, scolding Elena for not only being late but also accusing a friend of wrongdoing. She declares Elena unworthy of attending her etiquette class and tells her to wait outside and reflect on her behavior. Outside, Elena picks at her nails nervously, knowing her absence will affect her grades. Confused, she wonders why Adeline would lie since she has never done anything like this before. She begins doubting herself when a low voice calls her name. She looks up to see Tristan hiding in the grass, questioning what trouble he caused this time. Tristan grins, explaining that he isn't causing trouble, he's just skipping class. As she starts to lecture him, Tristan pulls her down to hide as the teacher calls out for him. Once the teacher leaves, Tristan apologizes and asks why she isn't in class. Elena huffs, mocking him for still being a troublemaker. Tristan notices her unease and asks why she isn't attending class. Elena admits she made a mistake, and the teacher didn't allow her to join. Worry, Tristan says that doesn't sound like her and suggests they skip together. He knows a place where she can relax. At the secluded spot, Tristan remarks that it's where he goes when he has a lot on his mind. You barely attend anything. What's even on your mind when there's nothing to do? Tristan shrugs and suggests she relax, pointing out that he has skipped so many classes and they haven't expelled him yet. Elena replies that it's different for her. She is aiming for the First Lady title. Tristan hands her a flower and questions why that title is so important to her when it comes with such heavy responsibilities. He states why she is stressing over one when she doesn't even enjoy etiquette. Straightening up, Elena replies with determination in her eyes. She enjoys sewing, and she even made her own dress for the upcoming ball, adding A stayed up late for nights to finish it. Wondering if he thinks she enjoyed that, she snaps. No, further explaining when she has a clear goal, she is prepared for both the struggles and the joys along the way, pointing he is not allowed to decide what she should enjoy. She turns to leave, but Tristan calls after her telling her he has a goal too. Elena pauses briefly and coldly states him to struggle for it then. She walks away, leaving Tristan speechless. Tristan, feeling uneasy, confesses that he's struggling too, making Elena wonder if she has been too harsh on him. Suddenly, their teacher arrives, sarcasm dripping from their tone as they ask Tristan what he's struggling with, perhaps attending his classes. With a stern expression, the teacher declares that the challenge here is impressing consequences upon both of them for their actions. Detention is handed out to both, sparking Elena's frustration. She demands to know why she has to do this. Later in the stables, Elena fumes angrily, blaming everything on Tristan. Tristan mocks her, telling her that cleaning a stable is nothing and wonders if she wants to know what punishments he's endured in past attentions. Elena quickly denies wanting to know, but internally, she can't help but find Tristan amusing. As she turns back to argue her point, she freezes when Tristan nonchalantly pulls off his shirt, revealing his six-pack. Elena becomes flustered, questioning aloud why he's taking off his shirt and mocking him for having no shame. She demands he put it back on, but Tristan disagrees, explaining that it's easier to work this way since he doesn't want his clothes to get dirty. Elena stares at him, thinking this might be the worst punishment, or perhaps a blessing in disguise. Tristan comes up behind her, taking the bucket and broom. He offers to do the work for her, making Elena wonder why he keeps distracting her. However, she decides it's better this way since he's much faster at cleaning than she is, leaving her with nothing to argue about, making her think he indeed have much experience. As they clean, Elena reflects when Tristan casually mentioned that he has his own struggles, making Elena think what he might want to achieve. She wonders if it's to become a knight since he enjoys fencing. Tristan then asks her what led her to end up in this mess. He points out that it's unlike her and presses to know if the teacher is harassing her or if something else is going on. Elena hesitates, unsure of how to explain the situation without speaking ill of Adeline, who is still her friend. Tristan insists she tell him the truth. Finally, Elena turns her face away and admits that she was late to class because Adeline misinformed her about the location. She adds that it's strange because Adeline denied it in front of the teacher, leaving her to wonder if Adeline really lied, or if it was just a misunderstanding. But if Adeline did lie, why would she do that? Elena questions whether Adeline might still be conflicted about her relationship with Lucas. Tristan, looking concerned, says he suggests she talk to Adeline face to face, since assuming things will only make it worse. Elena sighs, realizing this is the only solution, but she teases Tristan for knowing Adeline so well, asking if he's interested in her. Tristan waves it off, reminding her that Adeline only has eyes for Lucas. He mentions that Adeline is bound by too many rules, and getting closer to someone like her would only annoy him. This triggers Elena, who asks if he finds her annoying too since she's also bound by rules. Tristan teasingly replies, sometimes, but adds that Adeline follows rules because society demands it, whereas Elena breaks them when needed. He concludes she only looks strict because she has principles, smiling as he states that he admires people who stick to their values. Wait, did he just confess? Tristan freezes, blushing as he realizes what he's said. Desperate to change the topic, he claims he can speak the language of horses. Even the horse seems unimpressed. Tristan pretends to listen to the horse and then tells Elena that the horse wants to meet her. The horse, however, appears to be cursing at him. Undeterred, Tristan initiates introductions and mimics the horse's voice, asking Elena to guess the horse's name. Elena guesses Snowy. Tristan, still mimicking, says that's a cuter name than the horse's real name and allows her to call it Snowy. He then asks her name. When Elena introduces herself, she bursts into laughter at Tristan's antics. Despite herself, she finds it amusing. Perhaps that's the charm of the so-called horse language. As they talk, the horse suddenly starts chomping on Elena's hair. Tristan quickly hands it a carrot, telling it is much tastier than her hair. Furious, Elena threatens to smack his prince face once they're out of the stable. Tristan, unbothered, proudly calls it a prince face. After finishing, Elena rubs her hands and complains that cleaning the stable would take an entire day. Tristan grins, explaining that they don't have to clean the whole stable, just enough for the guards to think they did. Tristan then gets ready to ride one of the horses. Elena questions whether it's okay to take them without permission, prompting Tristan to pout and ask if she's afraid of horseback riding. Elena confidently denies it. The scene shifts to both of them riding a horse together. Elena blushes as Tristan sits close behind her. He warns her not to move too much, adding that the fun is just beginning. Nudging the horse, he increases the speed, making Elena panic and beg him to slow down. He wraps an arm around her waist, assuring her that she won't fall because he's got her. Wait, did he just say that? Smooth bro is Rizzler. Elena blushes while Tristan advises her to just enjoy the breeze. Reaching their destination, Elena sighs in relief, while Tristan teases her for being scared. She retorts that he can laugh all he wants but still doesn't understand why people enjoy horseback riding. Tristan, petting the horse, explains that he likes the thrill and that being in nature helps him forget about status and rules for a while. Before parting ways, Tristan tells Elena to head back, promising to finish the cleaning himself. Elena asks if he's sure, and Tristan nods. She reminds him not to skip his meals and wishes him good luck. Tristan, in turn, wishes her luck with her talk with Adeline. Elena flinches, realizing she had almost forgotten about her unresolved issues. She composes herself, reassuring him that she will indeed speak to Adeline after class. As she walks away, she reflects on how much she enjoys spending time with Tristan. Elena calls out for Adeline. She thinks Adeline might not have heard her, but the truth is harder to ignore. Adeline has been avoiding her for days, even when Elena is standing right beside her. This leaves Elena wondering if Adeline is doing it on purpose. Later, we see Elena sitting by herself, writing a letter. It seems like the only way left to communicate. The next day, Adeline's maid hands her Elena's letter. As Adeline opens it, Elena's words pour out, apologizing if she has wronged her in any way and expressing her willingness to correct her actions. She asks if Adeline could spare a minute to talk, admitting that friends do fight but emphasizing her belief that they can reconcile and rebuild their bond. Adeline stares at the letter, unsure if responding is the right thing to do. Her mother's voice echoes in her mind, reminding her not to show weakness and to stand firm. Lady Beth's insistence also lingers. She urged Adeline to believe her instead of Elena. The weight of these influences takes hold, and Adeline, convinced that Elena has betrayed her, tears the letter to pieces, pointing Elena needs to learn her place. The next day, Elena, still unaware of the torn letter, approaches Adeline with a smile, thanking her for accepting her apology. Adeline stands up and says it's all right, adding that she needs some fertilizer from the storage facility nearby for her plants. Elena, eager to mend their friendship, happily agrees to help. The scene shifts to the two of them heading to fetch the fertilizer. As they walk, Adeline apologizes for misinforming her about the class schedule earlier. She admits that someone else told her the wrong information, and she was embarrassed about it, which is why she avoided Elena. This makes Elena feel a bit lighter, believing they are on the path to resolving their issues. Reaching the storage room, Elena comments on how inconvenient it is to store something so far away. Adeline explains that it's where the extra stock is kept. As they are about to go inside, Lady Beth appears from behind, her presence like a storm cloud. Lady Beth calls Elena lowborn, her voice dripping with disdain as she brings up the humiliation she suffered in the cafeteria. Before Elena can defend herself, Lady Beth and Adeline shove her into the storage room and slam the door shut. Elena bangs on the door, being furious states is this how a lady is supposed to act? Lady Beth's voice responds someone of higher status. She has the right to punish insolent behavior, telling her to consider this a lesson. Elena slams the door again, but it doesn't budge. She yells for Adeline to help, pleading for her support. Please grab the situation already, or I'm going to get a headache. Lady Beth tells Adeline to ignore her, and the two prepare to leave. Elena's voice rises once more, reminding Adeline of their agreement to talk things through. Adeline freezes, conflicted. Lady Beth grins, her voice venomous states she deserves this for what she did to her. Besides, she agreed to this herself. Adeline hesitates, her emotions warring within her. Lady Beth's grin widens as she adds mockingly, they don't have to worry since someone will surely come for supplies in the morning. Elena, now alone, calls out desperately for someone to hear her. She kicks the sturdy door but realizes it's useless. Searching for another way out, her eyes land on a window. She decides to climb through, but as she prepares herself, thoughts flood her mind. Why would Adeline do this? Lady Beth's actions are understandable given her arrogance, but Adeline taking off her heels, Elena reflects. When did Adeline and Beth become friends? She recalls if it happened after the cafeteria incident. Being fully aware of how Adeline started acting strangely after that, maybe it was because Adeline felt threatened by her closeness to Lucas, or perhaps it was about the competition, knowing both of them are aiming for the title. Elena sighs, reaching a conclusion that nobles would indeed do anything to secure the title of lady. She tears a strip from her dress, fashioning gloves out of the fabric, and steels herself. She can't forget why she came here, she reminds herself. To clear his mother's name and earn that title. With a determined breath, she uses her heel to crack the glass of the window. Shards fall to the ground as she climbs through, but in her haste she cuts her feet. Tears spill as pain shoots through her, but she comforts herself as she's almost there. Beth will pay for this. From behind, a voice calls out her name. She turns to see Tristan, glad it's not Lucas, or things would have gotten even messier. Tristan, panting, asks her what happened. To deflect, Elena teases him if he got into trouble again. Tristan ignores her jab, grabbing her arms gently as his eyes scan her injuries, stating it looks like she has been attacked, and demands to know what happened. Elena explains how some girls from her class locked her in the storage room and how she got hurt trying to escape. Tristan's face darkens as he asks her if Adeline was one of them. The atmosphere grows tense, his usual playful demeanor replaced with something dark and terrifying. Tristan gets angry, questioning why Adeline would act that way when he thought the two of them were going to have a talk, especially since she even sent Adeline a letter. Elena states that she thought things were fine when they went for a talk, but Adeline wasn't alone. Beth and the other girls were involved, which makes her wonder if they might have influenced Adeline's judgment. She demands that Tristan not tell Lucas about it since it's a matter between her and Adeline, and she intends to solve it herself. She suddenly stops as her feet start hurting, making Tristan question if she's injured there as well. She informs him that it happened while she was jumping from a window. Just as she is about to say more, Tristan picks her up, annoyed, and questions why she's thinking about Lucas when she's clearly hurt. Elena clarifies that she only wants to resolve the situation and questions why he even cares if she mentions Lucas. Tristan, annoyed, states that he doesn't care about that and points out how irrational she's being right now. Elena starts fuming and demands that he put her down. Tristan teases her, asking if he struck a nerve and if she's embarrassed. When they reach the dorms, Elena whispers that she isn't allowed in the boys' dorm. Tristan, still carrying her, whispers back, informing her that the infirmary is closed, and if she doesn't want to tell anyone, the least she can do is let him patch her up to make sure she's all right. Elena, still angry, questions what they'll do if someone sees them, and starts making nasty rumors. Tristan mocks her, joking about a rumor of a beautiful dark-haired maiden and a dashing knight sneaking off alone. Elena snaps, telling him to shut up. Someone calls out for Elena, and Tristan asks if Lucas has finished his training without getting knocked down this time. Lucas stares at them for a while before asking why Tristan brought Elena to the boys' dorm and if she's alright. Tristan, clearly in a hurry, walks past him. Lucas grabs Elena's arm, demanding to know if Tristan is taking her to her bedchamber. Tristan, now angry, questions if Lucas is blind, explaining that Elena is hurt and he's taking her to patch up her injuries. Lucas, noticing her feet, becomes worried and starts panicking, apologizing for not realizing it earlier. He reassures her that they'll take care of her. Tristan interjects sarcastically, telling Lucas to get lost, and asks Elena to wait a little longer, mentioning that he has a medical kit in his room. He turns back to Lucas and tells him there's no need for him to come along, but Lucas insists on accompanying them. Later in Tristan's bedchamber, Tristan begins tending to Elena's injured feet. Lucas awkwardly remarks that it's inappropriate for an unmarried lady to be in a man's bedchamber, asking if there wasn't another place Tristan could have taken her. Tristan criticizes him, pointing out that this is coming from someone who himself entered a lady's bedchamber. Lucas blushes and defensively explains that it wasn't his intention. Tristan snaps back, accusing him of intending to treat her too, since the infirmary was closed. Lucas questions if Tristan is even capable of giving her proper treatment, to which Tristan criticizes him again, sarcastically stating that Lucas shouldn't trust his eyes too much, especially since he didn't even notice her injury earlier. As the two bicker, Lucas turns to Elena and asks if her feet are still hurting. Elena, now visibly annoyed, states that the only thing hurting is her ears and demands they stop making a fuss since she's not dying. Tristan, grabbing Lucas's attention, suggests that if Lucas really wants to do something useful, he should go to Adeline, since she, Beth, and her friends are the reason Elena ended up in this state. This revelation shocks Lucas. Tristan further explains that Elena was wounded while escaping from the storage room they locked her in. From behind, Elena shouts at Tristan, reminding him that she told him not to tell Lucas about it. Tristan, however, states that he never promised to keep it a secret. Lucas looks visibly sickened, and Tristan criticizes him, saying Lucas needs to be more aware of what his best friends are doing when he himself fails to notice so many things. Lucas comes to Adeline's defense, confidently stating that she would never harm anyone knowingly, and he even cleared up their previous misunderstandings. Elena, understanding Lucas's efforts, appreciates them but insists on solving the problem herself because she doesn't want anyone else to worry. Tristan and Elena excuse themselves, heading back to her chamber. As they're leaving, Lucas calls out to her and bows, apologizing for how difficult it must have been to be targeted by those girls. Elena clears it up, stating it wasn't his fault at all, but Lucas insists on helping her and offers to accompany her. Later, Jane rushes out from her room, asking how she ended up in such a state. He criticizes both princes, calling them bad influences. Elena clarifies that they helped her get here, but Jane, while helping her to her room, snaps that she wouldn't have needed help in the first place if they weren't so careless. He points out that they've done enough, calls out goodnight, and slams the door. As Tristan starts to leave, Lucas stops him, stating he has something to say. Tristan, showing sarcasm, tells Lucas he doesn't need his thanks. Lucas, however, clarifies that he isn't thanking him, but warning him to stay away from Elena. Tristan laughs, questioning who Lucas is to tell him to stay away from her, adding that Lucas is the reason Elena got hurt in the first place. My favorite animal is Tristan when have to be sarcastic. Lucas, triggered, explains that he did his best to solve the problem with Adeline and suspects there's another reason behind her behavior. Tristan smirks, mocking him and questioning if he's ever asked himself whether he didn't try hard enough. Lucas slams Tristan against the wall, questioning if Tristan himself has ever tried hard enough when all he does is abandon his responsibilities. Lucas wonders how Tristan always beats him effortlessly and whether victory feels empty to him since he doesn't even try. He accuses Tristan of blaming him and Adeline without considering that Beth might hate Elena because of his actions in the cafeteria. Tristan pulls away, slamming Lucas against the wall, and sarcastically responds that he's honored Lucas is so fixated on him. However, if he were Lucas, he would pay more attention to Adeline and Elena from now on, only if he truly cares. Lucas, angered, questions how Tristan could know anything about care when all he does is think about himself. Tristan responds that if he's so selfish, Lucas should trust him to act in his own interests and stop telling him what to do. Wishing him goodbye, Tristan smirks and leaves. Lucas grins, wondering what he's supposed to do when Tristan thinks nothing is ever enough. Meanwhile, Tristan, opening the door, resolves to keep Elena safe if Adeline and her friends insist on playing games. His protective demeanor showcases undeniable male lead vibes. While putting a bandage on Elena's feet, Jean advised her to rest until the wound healed a little. He added that she might be tired and needed to take better care of herself. However, Elena responded that it looked worse than it actually was, insisting she could walk perfectly fine on her own. Jean frowned, worried about how she could defend herself if those nobles attacked her again while she was in such a weakened state. He even suggested that she take a few days off from school. But Elena got up, brushing off his concerns. She couldn't afford to risk her grades dropping, she argued. Taking days off would only give the nobles more opportunities to plot against her behind her back. Before leaving, she reassured him that if the pain worsened, she would go to the infirmary for proper treatment. Jean sighed deeply, wondering how he could not worry when she was putting herself in danger by standing against such powerful people. As Elena left, Lucas approached her, asking about her condition. However, Elena grew annoyed with everyone fussing over a few small cuts. Lucas explained calmly that he wouldn't have been this worried if a professional had treated her wounds properly. Still, Elena dismissed his concern, telling him not to worry and reminding him about the idea they had discussed the previous night. She wanted to put it into action that very day. The scene shifted to Lucas introducing Elena to Lady Catherine and Lord Andries. Both were pleased to meet her. Lord Andries, the student council vice president, and Lady Catherine, the council president, welcomed her with polite interest. Catherine expressed her surprise at Lucas's sudden decision to recommend someone new for the student council. Elena bowed slightly, reflecting internally on how Lucas's idea from the night before had taken her by surprise too. A position on the student council would undoubtedly elevate her status and possibly give her an upper hand against some of the nobles in the academy. Catherine smiled knowingly, remarking that she wasn't too surprised, given how often Lucas praised Elena. This comment made Lucas blush slightly as he clarified, stating he only did that because she deserves it. Lady Elena has always had unique and intriguing views, which he's sure will benefit the academy greatly. Catherine then apologized, admitting that they had conducted a background check on Elena after the recent incident, pointing it was necessary to assess her reputation. Her words struck Elena like a dagger when she continued, pointing out that Elena had been behaving in an unladylike manner and drawing unnecessary attention to herself. On the other hand, Catherine acknowledged Elena had also earned respect from the staff and many lower-class students. She even praised Elena for joining the academy by selling her own dresses, noting that it was remarkable to see someone of her status displaying such refined etiquette now. Catherine expressed confidence that Elena would bring much-needed change to the academy, particularly in addressing the behavior of some spoiled noble students, a prospect Catherine seemed eager to witness. At this point, Andries interjected skeptically. How can they trust her when those spoiled nobles Catherine mentioned are the result of privilege in the wrong hands? Questioning why should they believe she wouldn't misuse her authority in the same way? Elena, unfazed, responds they can keep a close watch on her, she offered, adding, if she's proven to misuse her position, they can strip her of council status immediately. Still unimpressed, Andries retorted, her reckless behavior so far is proof enough, and he can't imagine how many nobles she will offend if they give her any authority. Elena's eyes narrowed as she confidently puts that the last time she checked, Versailles Academy is seen as a place for learning and self-improvement, but suspiciously wonders if the student council vice president himself is against change and progress.